Good morning, chat room. Hey, well, I kind of had a show planned. I feel like Rachel Maddow right now. We'll talk in a second. We're about to start. As long as Chicago can hear me, we're all good.
Al, you there?
Oops.
Hello, hello?
Oh, we lost audio. Rats. Why is that? Hello, check one, check, check. Check, check. Check, hello. Oh, rats, what happened? Check one. Check. Check. That's weird. Check. Hello, check. That seems to be fine. Why am I getting an issue with this? Reload the page, perhaps. Oh, great. Chicago. Sorry. That's fun. Check, check. Hello. Check one, check two. Hey, I think we're here. I think we're on. I think we got it. I think we're up. Chicago's connecting. 1 second. 3, 2, 1. Hello, check one. Chicago. Hey.
Hal, you there?
Good morning. I
Perfect.
can kind of. That's fun. Now I can't hear them.
Al, can you hear me? Hello?
That's odd.
Al? Hello?
Here we go. I think so. Oops. There we go. Output. Let's try this. There we go. Excellent. I can. Here we go. Oh, good. Okay. I'll connect him. '30's great. Okay. So, hi, chat room. Wow. Huh? Good morning. Yeah, what a week. I mean, I think CPT is running out of commercials. I'm trying. To make them use every single one they have. Here we go. Damn it. Why is the audio not getting from this to that? That's I don't know. Hi, Johnny. Hi. I'm trying to get it so that the chat room can hear you. Well, I kind of had a show idea this morning. I kind of thought I knew where I was headed as far as story. And I woke up and I turned on the AM Joy as I often do, because usually that's where the channel was yesterday, and I find out that Jeffrey Epstein pulled a Washington Madam and did himself in, and allegedly. And look, okay, I love me a conspiracy theory. I'm a big fan. I enjoy conspiracy theories. I think there's oftentimes more to them than we give credit to in some of the basic sense. Like, I don't believe in the overarching giant conspiracies that there's like a one world government that's trying to do everything. But I do think that varying degrees of scumbags get together and try to, get involved in illicit. They do team up scumbaggery. Yeah, precisely. There's so much to it where you and as this rolled out, I think the running gag was the entire time, this guy's never going to make it to trial. Like, just the volume of human beings that are associated with this man. The two biggest names, obviously, Bill Clinton and Donald Trump. Two presidents, one former, one current, and then the old Vince Foster Fantasyland conspiracy theories that the right has about Bill Clinton. Certainly push him to the front of the line in people's conspiracy. I mean, as soon as it came up, somebody was like, yeah, Clinton out of existence, or add another one to the Clinton body count. All those hashtags start flying again. But let's not forget that in the flight logs just recently that have been updated and released, they included but we're not limited to the CEO of Bear Stearns, Bill Richardson, former governor of New Mexico, which was an odd one. Yeah, who was talked about as being a running mate for Hillary Clinton, was nixed for some reason. I was one of those people who was very curious as to why he never made it, why he didn't get that he was one of those guys. Like, I had no idea why he wouldn't be one of the first choices as a Hispanic former governor, all those kind of things. He seemed to make sense. I think this may have been something to do with this, perhaps, because he was literally beyond being on a flight log. He was named by Virginia Giuffre as one of the people she was forced to sleep with by Ghislaine Maxwell, who, by the way, where is she? Where is Ghislaine Maxwell? And is she under wink wink suicide watch? John Glenn, let's see, Catherine Inez Kerr, who's the wife to the brother of the Duke of Roxburgh, which I don't know how to say those words without putting on a British accent. Yeah. Flew with Ghislaine Maxwell. Her brother, Kevin Maxwell. By the way, if you wonder why these people in these situations, besides the fact that people oftentimes are why these people would do themselves in when they're so self-involved, and this is a big if. This also applies to the Washington Madam, because these days it seems to me that almost anyone, especially when it comes to, I think the Washington Madam in a different category certainly than Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein had nothing but dark days ahead of him. Nothing. Like, there is no way out of this for this dude, right? This is the quickest and way out for him. It's not surprising. So the Washington Madam, on the other hand, you're like, she could have written a book and all this, and so the idea that she was done away with makes way more sense in some ways even than he, because in this day and age, even if you do 10 years, you could get out and write a multi-million-dollar book and release it, and how many of us would take a crappy job for 10 years so we could be a millionaire at the end of the decade? You know what I mean? Like, there's a certain point where, someone in her position she was going to Club Fed. She was not going to be going to, she was not going to be in cell block C. And so, obviously, like I said, Clinton, Trump, all this news about Alan Dershowitz and his involvement, there is no way to even touch the angle of Dershowitz's involvement with Epstein without needing a shower afterwards. It is everything. Every time he opens his mouth about this story or anything involved, he comes away looking scummier than he did before, which I think in and of itself, no. And for me, he's actually helped this case along more than almost anyone, simply by not being able to take advice of counsel and shut the heck up, right? Okay, so right. So in Fire and Fury, remember the book that came out that Michael Wolff put out that really drew a lot of attention? He referred to Trump, Epstein, and Tom Barak, the Trump senior advisor, a campaign advisor, quote, he called them a set of nightlife musketeers in the 80s and 90s. Like, all for one and one for all. Like, these guys were watching each other's backs pretty consistently. And that group in and of itself, with Dershowitz, kind of lurking in the, picking up the scraps. Okay, so and again on this list, Mort Zuckerman, former owner of the New York Daily News and the Atlantic. He invested in the magazine Radar in 2004 with Epstein, and Woody Allen is on the flight logs. Larry Summers, former Harvard President Clinton, and then of course Bill Barr, Attorney General William Barr's father, who gave Epstein his first job that he was not qualified for, around teenagers, and and the weird thing is Epstein died in federal custody. He was at the DOJ. William Barr is literally the person overseeing this. Like, if you wanted to set up a never-ending chain of conspiracy theory, you couldn't do a better job. Like, this is it's farcical in its absurdity. Like, yeah. So, Ken Starr, of course, in a fit of incredible irony, the independent counsel who tried President Clinton, he was on Epstein's legal team in 2008 that helped craft the deal that not only protected him, but I think the single most bizarre aspect of this. You want to talk about whether or not he did himself in or somebody helped him along, any of that stuff, any of it. All of that goes out the window when you think these guys were involved in crafting a deal for a billionaire accused of pedophilia, sex trafficking, and sexual abuse. Got him pled down to a minor count where he had a key to the jail, like some old Western, where he could check himself in. And yes, that's right, Andy Griffith. He had an Andy Griffith deal. And he, which would have changed, obviously, if they'd have moved him to federal penitentiary. We got a couple of rules up here on the rock. So it was a squirrel. I can pretty much whip out but again, okay, so it's a solid one. Andy? Anyways, I get lost in my in my impersonation of him. So all of these things, I think, horrifying essential aspects of the charges, followed immediately by the hideousness of the connections of this man, followed by all the people on his flight logs. All that stuff reeks, all of it. However, the most egregious aspect of it is that deal in 2008. Of all the things, because if the unequal application of the law is the most dangerous thing in an attack on democracy, the idea that there's, no question that this happens every day, but the idea that this guy is not only going to get a sweetheart break on this deal because he's a billionaire and has all these the mad hookups, but all of the people who conspired with him or were involved or may be found later. This deal is it's unfathomable. May be found later to be connected to this are granted immunity as well, are not to be charged. How? Literally, it is. Think of any situation where an egregious crime has occurred where you're giving immunity not to the co-conspirators who come out and testify against the person or a higher up. Yeah, anybody else who's later found will not be. I can't even register that possibility. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Parks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. I'm going to fix this audio situation. I think that's the way it goes.
Seem okay?
Yeah, think so.
I tried to shut down all the things that are
I hear you, Johnny.
pulling on my Wi-Fi.
No, they can hear you. I can't hear you. So hang on one second while I fix that aspect of things. So curious. I don't understand typically how you do that. Oh, yes. Output, audio monitor. Audio monitor. There we go. I think that did it. Johnny, say something.
Something.
Yay. It's weird. I have a slight delay on my own voice, which will be odd, but doesn't affect the show, so I don't care.
That's weird.
I think it's the slowness of this computer because I'm in LA. We need a major upgrade here.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody
you're
in the
in
chat
LA.
room.
Isn't that your house?
Huh?
You
Yes,
said
it
you're
is.
In L-
Yeah.
And that's where you keep your slow computer?
No. This is the LA house. The main computer is in Vegas, where the studio
okay.
is. Yeah, this is the studio computer in the rehearsal space out back. And it's not bad. It's just odd. But there we go.
Back to you guys in 60.
Cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So
Hey, Hal, did you get the email with the Ravinia library?
I did.
This week?
I did.
Same
I have
thing
it.
as always at the half hour?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, there it is. Oh, wow. Just make sure my stuff doesn't croak before I get online.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
So not only was Ken Starr on Epstein's plane, and not only was Donald Trump considered one of the three musketeers with Epstein in the 80s and 90s, but in here, let's be abundantly clear. Just because somebody shows up on these flight logs, even if it's repeatedly to some degree, because this guy was such a donor and was creating a situation where he had a defense against, being like he basically created a wall of influential people, both who were involved with him and who were not. And there's a huge aspect to this where some people he was obviously farming for influence. He was donating to Harvard. He was donating to science. He was donating to the Democratic Party. And he was using this, and when he started this, obviously this was during, his major influence into politics started happening in the 90s. Clinton was president, but he was hanging out with Donald Trump. This was clearly a strategy on this man's behalf. Does that exonerate any of these guys? No. Does it add to the suspicion? Absolutely.
Yep.
So regardless, this is a constant running theme with this guy. So Lawrence Krauss, who's a theoretical physicist, who, by the way, had multiple sexual allegations against him in 2018, and he resigned from Arizona State University. During that time and leading up to it, Epstein was a major donor to ASU, to his program specifically. And they hosted a conference of Nobel laureates in the U.S. Virgin Islands in 2012. So a lot of these folks flew there either on Epstein's plane or were brought there by it. So again, this would be a good example of him using them as a shield. Stephen Hawking was pictured attending was at Great St. James Island.
Really?
Yes, because he was funding all these science advancements, and this was one of his way into this. Look, it is no surprise this guy would fund situations where he could hang around colleges and schools. Like, of course. And so one of those areas, obviously of all the people, Stephen Hawking is the least suspect in this circumstance due to his physical malady and his circumstance. But again, I think it fits who he's using as a shield. Steven Pinker, AI specialist Roger Schank came out to the island and visited him in jail in 2008. Okay. I get how billionaires have access to people. I get it. Especially because money is so important to political campaigns and to science research.
I think it's the money.
You what?
I think it's the money.
You think? It very well could be. I'm starting to.
I'm here to help.
Right. So, in this case, I'm not surprised that some people went up there. Both movie people who also are always looking for funding for films, research companies, and political campaigns. And this guy knew that. And so some of these people he saw as either potential buddies in his endeavors or were active participants in it with him, and they went into business afterwards. There were areas where, it's all mixed up in this, and it has to come out. And my argument would be, and I think this has been the response I've heard the most from my Democratic friends is, if you're involved in what he was doing, you're done. No question. No previous loyalties out the window. Done. And because there can't be any equivocation on this kind of stuff.
No.
That being said, this guy clearly used people as shields, so some of the people mixed in with this won't be guilty of the same thing. I think obviously Stephen Hawking would qualify, if you know what I'm saying. You can't just broom everybody involved. And Charles in our chat room brings up something, and I brought this up weeks ago. You guys will remember on the show when this all started going down. Chris Hayes goes on Twitter and says, "How did Epstein make his money?" Now, he was a billionaire hedge fund manager who was brilliant. And Stephanie Rule keeps bringing up the fact that, if that's true, how come nobody ever heard of this guy? How come nobody went, you got to get Epstein working on your stuff? You got to get, this is the dude. Because he's got an angle, or he's got a special talent for seeing deals or whatever.
You get his fresh thoughts on these things.
Who's fresh? Yes, exactly. He's the guy you go to, right? So, hinky from the very beginning. And, here you have a bunch of people who, need three different industries that need money. Epstein is handing out money to those industries and looking for both a crisscross of cover and collaborators. And there are some people that stick out immediately because of their sexual past or their proclivities, where you're like, that guy's a collaborator. And then other people where you're like, I don't know what the heck this guy's doing hanging around him. Or, maybe he was blind to it. Because, Harvey Weinstein is a good example, because lots of different people were doing business with Harvey Weinstein. And this has always been my bone to pick. Well, we got to take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the Weinstein connection and why that's no surprise.
Time flies when you're rocking with the pedos.
Seriously. Ugh. Gross. We'll be back. It's the House Sparks Radio program, mega worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Patreon.com/HalSparks. Please become a supporter of the show. We greatly appreciate it. Show tonight in Santa Barbara with 01, and then show tomorrow night at Flappers in Burbank. I'm doing stand-up. Come see me. We'll be back right after this.
I got to take a quick break, Hal.
You do what you got to do.
You want me to do this?
Yes, I do. Yes. Hold on. Okay, mic is up. This guy. Okay. No. Maybe. That sounds still a delay. Why is that happening? Who cares? It's not bothering you guys. It doesn't bother me. Yeah, YouTube's being wonky today as well. But hi, everybody. There's 229 people in here. Give it a thumbs up if you can, please. Hit the like. And also share the show if you would, please. That would help us out. Yeah, Hal Vickery, I was thinking the exact same thing. So when you're on suicide watch, they give you shorts so you can't even hang yourself with your pants leg. So I wish I believed in hell. I need to put this on. Yeah, there's hold on one second. There's a series of issues I have with people's reporting on the conspiracy aspects of this stuff. Anyways, like, that's right. Thank you, Can't Stop Lying. How are you?
Back to you in 60, Hal.
Cool. Oh. That's interesting. As this stuff all starts to roll out, you start getting a better picture of who these people are in Trump's circle, too.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So there's a bunch of people on this list that, you know, mix in the area I would think of that qualify as human shields. And then there are other people where you can't know. And all the information should come out. I'm not going, JG in our chat rooms, don't go full Alex Jones here, Hal. Won't happen. It's difficult, though, to kind of parse who is involved in this.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's hard to parse the information. We've got the
That's
files.
right. We don't have the documents. And that's the awkward part. So also Epstein had this address book and then the flight logs. These are the two big things that got posted, right? And the address book, which was published by Gawker, which interestingly enough got shut down shortly thereafter, became a target by some of the people, by the way, who were in that address book. I'm just saying.
You mean they weren't just big Hulk Hogan fans?
Yeah, no.
Looking for justice?
Aren't we all, though, on our own? If only just for his, appearance in Rocky III.
Thunder Lips.
Yeah, Thunder Lips, absolutely. Baby. So in that list is Alec Baldwin, Ray Fiennes, Ted Kennedy, David Koch, Courtney Love, who also shows up on the flight logs, which is very curious, and Bill Richardson again, Bruce King, and Katie Kerr. He had a dinner party in 2010 for Prince Andrew, who's one of the people who's accused of being involved in the trafficking part of this repeatedly. There was a dinner for Prince Andrew that included Katie Couric, George Stephanopoulos, Chelsea Handler, and Woody Allen. Another dinner featured Mort Zuckerman, obviously, who was mentioned before, Google co-founder Sergey Brin, David Blaine, Donald Trump, Les Wexner, and former British cabinet member Peter Mandelson. And another cabinet member, and this is the weirdest part for of a pile of weird. I mean, obviously, like on the flight logs that list Bill Clinton also include Chris Tucker.
Oh boy.
You know what I mean? Like, and Kevin Spacey.
Boy.
All right. Yeah. Because they and here's the thing. That year, Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey, and Chris Tucker allegedly flew to, they definitely flew to Africa on Epstein's plane as part of an effort to raise awareness about HIV, AIDS, and poverty in Africa. So here's Epstein volunteering his plane to fly these guys over there. Again, you could argue that this is him padding the flight logs to water the whole thing down. So Wilbur Ross, apparently after, I guess he was released and given his little, work release program. Wilbur Ross socialized with him in 2011. Like they hung out. Now, many of us, I think, have a horror idea of what it would like to be on the receiving end of a powerful human being sexually assaulting us. Like, if you have a mental picture of that horror, Harvey Weinstein and Wilbur Ross are in many ways like the seat of that nightmare in some ways.
Oh, yeah.
Like that coming towards you. Flight logs of this group, like you're like, this is a pile of human beings I don't want to be anywhere near, kind of in general in some cases. Now, going back to the fact that he's dead. He is now dead. And somebody in the chat room earlier was like, roll his old bones over here. Yeah, pulling a principle from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Like, you just produce a corpse. And because I think it is completely normal. I have a joke right now about how, people say you can't joke about certain things. And I think the natural reflex is to joke about certain things. And if you're not joking about it, you concern me. And I use Bill Cosby as an example of someone who doesn't swear but does awful things.
Right.
Because it is, when Prince passed away, he had people farming the internet, making sure that no bootlegs got out on the internet, right? And the minute he died, all of his stuff came out. All of his video, like concerts, and if you're a Prince fan, YouTube is your buddy right now. It has been, right? And so I've had the joy, like a lot of other Prince fans, of watching concerts I didn't even know existed, much less, there was good video of, right? And it occurred to me in watching that and the controversy around Prince and being a huge Richard Pryor fan and the controversy around him, that if you line up Michael Jackson and Bill Cosby against Prince and Richard Pryor, the people who turned out to be the villains are an absolute shock. If you weren't fans. Looking from the outside, if you didn't know these folks and you just knew their life story, Richard Pryor born and raised in a brothel. Didn't know his father. Yeah. And it's a blues song that writes itself.
Totally.
Yeah. And Prince, of course, who did his initial shows literally in tights with no underwear, and the club owner said, you better put some underwear on or I'm not going to let you perform because everybody can see your junk through your tights. So instead of putting tights on with underwear, he just came out in his underwear the next time. And he, from that point on, wore a see-through raincoat and basically panties on stage. That guy never had sex with anyone against their will, and everybody who slept with him was annoying him about it. Like, please, same thing with Richard Pryor. Meanwhile, on the other end of the spectrum, the other guys I mentioned, not so much. And that's how it often is with people, I think, who, insofar as how you joke, about a certain topic or you talk about a certain topic. The natural response is the joke for a lot of people in an uncomfortable situation. And at TSA, when you're walking through TSA, the natural thing is to go, oh, yeah, I'm the guy with the bomb. That's right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, my shampoo. I'm going to blow up the whole block. I'm taking out a plane with an orange juice. That's a natural response. That's what's going through your head. And so I think the rule should be anybody who doesn't joke about a bomb is clearly the person who needs to be frisked. And it kind of goes to the folks who are acting like this isn't a hinky situation. Dershowitz reeks of this. Dershowitz is one of those guys where, this isn't, the fact that you would even bring this up, that, you know what I'm talking about? Whenever somebody says outrageous, I'm immediate like, oh, yeah, okay, we've caught them. That is outrageous. Usually the denial comes after the outrageous part. Whereas if you, there are also two ways of political denying that you will see. I almost think we have to have it like a lesson for watching the fallout from this story. Like the people named, the people who are going to continue to be named, if they go after Ghislaine Maxwell, now that she's the main defendant in this circumstance, I don't know what I personally think the victims should be able to sue to divide up his entire fortune.
Yeah.
But she's still around insofar as I know, unless that's the next shoe to drop. In looking at these kind of things, watch for people who have the, kind of multi-level denials. There is the absolutely not. The I was ready for this, and it's coming, and I'm going to explain where I was and what I did, and do a full denial, because I know, for the most part, either that I didn't participate in it for real, or there's no evidence.
Right.
Right? These are both people, both innocent and villain, in that circumstance can have exactly the same denial. You see this in politics all the time. You see it in, any time of, there's from police shootings to people who are being sued and their deposition gets aired, that kind of stuff. Though the same people have the same denial. A guilty person and an innocent person, same denial, right? Then there is the person who I think views it with some seriousness and has to undermine the entire question of them being asked from the questioner's point of view. And so this is, I think if you want to see an example of that, go back to Woody Allen's interview about the sexual abuse the very first time, I think it was in 91, when he was first accused of it. And, his denial is fascinating to watch. And I will leave it up to you as to whether you believe him or not. But his denial strategy in that circumstance is not, he didn't invent it. A lot of people do it. It's not Machiavellian. You don't have to plan it. But it is definitely something that comes up with some people, which is, think about the question you're asking me. Somebody asks you, did you do this thing? And they go, think about the question you're asking me. So let me get this straight. You think I intentionally went to this situation when I knew I was under scrutiny. I had 15 minutes to be, in a location, and I used that time to do the crime that you're committing me. And then I did, but I've never done it before and since. Right? That was basically the essence of that denial. And like I said, you can read into it what you will. And Woody Allen very well may be one of the people who he participated in stuff with Epstein. He very well may be one of the people that Epstein thought would participate because of the rumors around him, right? And went to there.
Yeah.
And again, this is about Epstein's use of people and the availability of these people to be used because of the value that money has in specifically politics, science, and entertainment. The strange bedfellows aspect of this. And again, it is oftentimes the people, it is not the people who are overt sinners. It is, that's the thing that sticks out, I think, to me about all of this. There are no overt sinners in this list of people. There are no people with, there is no...
It's only people who protest too much.
Yeah, there's no Hugh Hefner in this list. You know what I mean?
Right.
The guy who threw sex parties at his house for decades is nowhere near this guy, right? And I think, and I guess Donald Trump would be the one standout. And, as far as overt sinners go.
Yeah.
And that's a curious aspect of the overlay between the two of these guys. Because I think there is one. And it is no surprise that, perhaps in his proclivity, thank you, I guess it should come as no surprise to anybody that Donald Trump may have tried on Epstein's lifestyle as like a hat in the 90s and decided he liked slightly older girls. You know what I mean? In all seriousness.
Yeah.
So we got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. It's weird. For some reason, the Ravinia live read does not want to download. I think it's because of how he forwarded.
I didn't get it.
Yeah. No, I mean, he sent it. Matt sent it to me.
Oh, okay.
Let me see. I'll try sending it to you again, okay?
Yeah. Don't say my email address out over the air. That would not be wise. But, yeah. Hey, break time. Now bust a riff. Yeah. We'll do that. We'll do that in the post show. Amos Hefner liked any woman who was breathing. He had a specific type, that's for damn sure. But here's the thing. The key word in that is woman. Adult female. And that's a huge difference. For all of, our protestations and support of people's open sexuality, we have left normal, straight proclivities and what I would call the normal realm of straight kink to the dogs and the wolves, insofar as leaving it to the right. And I think that's stage 2. Is that I think the left, in many ways, our one area is abortion rights, where we protect, we vehemently protect heterosexual sex and the variants in it. That you should be allowed to have control and autonomy over your own body. So, anyways, again, the overt sinners of the world are less of an issue, and there very well may have been a period where, because when did Trump? Maybe you could look this up, Johnny. When did Trump buy the Miss Teen USA or whatever it was? Remember that?
Oh yeah. It's around the time when he couldn't get any more funding from anyone in America.
Yeah. And that's what he was in Moscow for.
Yep.
This is Doris Davenport, host of The Doris Davenport Show, all local, all the time. I'm on every Saturday morning from 10 to 11, right before Hal Sparks. Now let's get back to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So we've got a president in office who has bragged about basically buying the Miss Universe pageants because he owns the place. He could barge into the dressing room anytime he wanted.
Yeah, that was live on the air.
Yeah, he said that on Howard Stern's show. Yeah.
He bought it in 96.
96, right. And was on Epstein's flight logs in 98, in as late as 98. That just came out. By the way, yesterday. Yesterday it comes out that, he never flew on his plane. Oh, actually, there he is on the flight logs. They were just released. And a day later, he's dead.
Time to kill him. Oops.
And here's the thing. I personally, this guy, it's impossible to make a direct line to who might have either done this guy in or threatened this guy into doing himself in, and again, I think it goes to the Hollywood Madam idea, was it Washington Madam, is do yourself in or your family dies, I think is probably the biggest leverage in those situations that the rich and powerful use, because they can reach your family. They will definitely be able to kill them.
Well, we all know that's a Trump go-to move when he was on Morning Joe going, you stop the terrorists by threatening their families.
Yeah. You kill them and their families too until they get the message, essentially. Yeah.
Right, because he's never heard of war crimes.
Right. Don't even get me started. Because, I had a whole show planned, and we'll talk about it next hour, because 1 hour of Epstein, considering the dude is dead, is enough. But
unless he comes back to life, which would be amazing. That would be worth another hour.
Yeah. What's that character that Andy Kaufman used to do?
Oh, that's Tony...
Tony Clifton. Yeah. It turns out Epstein starts showing up in places dressed as Tony Clifton. So Trump owned the Miss Universe pageant, which had scholarship programs with Miss Teen USA. And he bragged about his access to these women in the 90s. He was one of the three musketeers of nightlife, according to Michael Wolff, in the 80s and 90s with Epstein. All of these guys, and again, I don't hate on anybody for the outlandishness of their consensual sexual lifestyle. If 9 girls want one guy, or one girl wants 9 guys, or whatever their deal is, as long as it's not based on mental damage, it's a choice of desire and pleasure, that's none of my business. But these guys around Epstein, this is an area of this is an area which even prisoners find off limits, where even multiple murderers, like, yeah, I shot a whole family, but I'm gonna bash your head in because your victims were underage. Like that. That's how extreme this stuff is. And if we find out, because as far as I know, Epstein did not have a cellmate when he died. He was alone. He was on suicide watch, alone in his cell, and now he is dead.
How does suicide watch work? You just
doesn't,
watch the
apparently, in
person
this
commit
case.
Suicide?
Yeah. So, if you are involved, and I think we can say this unequivocally, I think everybody in the chat room agrees with this. I've seen it several times because we got good people in there, including my buddy Ryo G, who's in there. I haven't seen him in a little bit, so welcome back, and good morning, Julie, and good morning, Carl. And that if you're involved in this stuff, you're done. That's it. If you are you're found to be part of his crowd, you're done. And I think, considering the allegations against Donald Trump and how he has treated adult women, there is no reason to believe that while he may not have been interested in Epstein's harem when they were underaged, many of those girls were kept on as recruiters when they were of age. Right. When some of these rich and powerful men and perhaps women participated in sexual acts with them when they were effectively adult sex slaves to this guy. Which, by the way, still you're done. Even if you waited till the day they turned 18, which is apparently an argument that Trump had with Epstein about taking the virginity of one of these girls. I know. Even if you're waiting the day after they turn 18 because legally you're in the clear, you're still dealing with a groomed victim of sexual violence who was arguably trapped in that circumstance. So you're done. And Dershowitz, just in his defense of this scumbag, not to mention his, I got a massage, but I left my underwear on, but it was an old Russian lady, but I didn't really like it because I'm not a massage guy. BS. You're done. And if you have him on your show to verbally defend himself, what is wrong with you? Why does he get a shot other people don't get? What is that about? All right, when we come back, the news of the week that actually has to do with policy and all these other things, because it's a huge deal. Obviously, we had a lot of news that occurred this week with both the shootings and the situation at the border and the ICE raids, that while this monster dies in jail, all this other stuff continues. Yep. Which leads us into the next election. We'll be back.
So how?
Yeah, Mary, I mentioned that earlier about Bill Richardson, and again, I didn't know. It's kind of like the Weinstein and the specifically, even I guess Matt Lauer too, is Page Six and TMZ and all these gossip organizations. Do all this stuff, chasing people down for cracks in their consensual relationships. A couple's getting together or breaking up, they're divorcing, someone's having an affair, all consensual behavior amongst adults. They're up their ass with a microscope. But when it comes to Weinstein, they had no idea. until the Weinstein story broke because of, was it Ronan Farrow's
Yeah.
expose?
Yeah.
Had you ever seen anything on TMZ or Page 6 about that dude?
No, just
No.
jokes during award shows.
Yeah. So, to me, those guys, like Page 6, I would argue, protected Harvey Weinstein. Because there's no
or
way
were
they
threatened
didn't know.
by.
You can barely hear. Okay. All right. Sorry. Volume up. Turning the volume up. Check. Check 1. Oh, I see. Mine's on plus there. So, check. Check. Is that better?
Oh boy, now I really hear you.
Oh, it's nice. Can you turn your mic up, Johnny? A little bit? A little bit? Check,
Uno
check.
momento. I have to
I
go
don't-
deep.
Oh, yeah, I saw that swallow a rock thing. Charles Hayden. This, one of the... up there. Yeah. Somebody said that on AM Joy today that they had a guy commit suicide while he was on suicide watch, and the only way he could do it was to swallow a sock. Because there was no way to hang... There was nothing to hang himself from.
Alrighty.
There are no... You don't have a bunk bed in a suicide watch cell. You don't have ceiling light fixtures in a suicide watch cell. There's nothing.
But sock
Nothing
swallowing
to-
can do it, huh?
Yeah, there's nothing to tie yourself to. Like, I want a picture of that cell. Because even if he did do
I'm
it...
sure you'll get a picture of a cell.
Yeah, right.
I'm starting to really not like this guy.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, and if you Google suicide watch cell, dozens of them. It's all that comes up is Weinstein's picture. Yeah. So none of the suicide watch cells have ceiling fixtures. The only thing I can see, and I'm not seeing the one he was in, I can't know. But they are given garments they can't tear. That's like a dress. So they don't have pants legs even. One of those cells that I'm seeing has horizontal bars on the window, which is stupid because you can hang yourself from those. But every other place I'm seeing has vertical bars or no bars, no window at all. They have a light fixture that's not attached to the ceiling that has no physical, can't hold a body up. Yeah.
Back to you in 60, Hal.
Cool. Thank you.
Also, did you get the Ravinia email from me?
I will look. Hold on.
Okay.
I got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we also got a couple callers if you want to go to them.
Cool. I realize we blew through that hour without doing the read, but
Yeah, we have to do it twice this hour. So
Yeah, that's fine.
If you however you want to do it. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Yeah. All right, 15.
you can do it, Johnny, at the top of the hour as a palate cleanser. I just sent you a text, Johnny.
Yep.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out on me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Damn puss-faced little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Yes. So let's start with a palate cleanser, Johnny. Let's get back to real life.
Yeah, you know, Hal and I have we bonded over being big Steely Dan fans way back in the day in
This
high
is
school.
true, actually. It's very surprising.
They're one of those bands that back in the day, every time a sound guy would test a PA system, they put on a Steely Dan record because it was recorded so perfectly.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so aptly by the musicians who were like chosen from, the greatest of the great,
Exactly.
by the weirdest of the weird.
And man, everybody played with them and on their amazing records, and they are somehow or another still on tour, and they are at Ravinia again. Ravinia's back.
Oh,
and
nice.
They've got hits like "Hey 19," "Black Cow," which I don't know. Deacon
You know
Blues,
Black
and-
Cow. You just probably don't know it by the
probably
name Black Cow.
But one name that everybody knows is "Ricky Don't Lose That Number." And so they are coming to Ravinia to recreate that amazing sound. They've got 2 concerts on Sunday, September 1st and Monday, September 2nd at Ravinia. You can get tickets at ravinia.org, and coming soon, don't miss OAR, Morrissey, can you believe that? Lenny Kravitz, and more.
Whoa. Ravinia getting all modern after.
Right?
Yeah. After a little bit of, playing music along with movies, all of a sudden.
Yeah, all of a sudden they got some rock bands.
Yeah. How'd that happen? Meanwhile, Ravinia.org is the website, and we are proud supporters of Ravinia here at WCPT Radio.
Heck,
so,
yeah.
Obviously there was a lot of news this week besides the fact that a bunch of rich and powerful scumbags are temporarily breathing a sigh of relief because Jeffrey Epstein is dead and Ghislaine Maxwell has not been charged yet. I don't know how you expect to dodge this. I think the biggest thing they probably feel the best about, quite frankly, is all this evidence is in the hands of William Barr. All this stuff.
Yeah, all of it.
Mm-hmm. So, this follows a week of insanity insofar as we had ICE raids that were meant to hurt. That was the whole goal. That this is a Stephen Miller, Donald Trump production of their wicked hate machine. Let's send a warning to Central American asylum seekers and migrants that if you try to come up here, we're going to hurt you. And if you're an economic migrant, you've been safe heretofore, but you are no longer safe. That this is a direct reaction, I believe, to the 6 years ago when there was a huge push in the news and everything that eventually America is going to be a minority white country.
Oh,
Not that any other race would be a majority over them, but the story was told that the growth of Hispanic citizenry and the fact that we had 11 million people here who were here illegally undocumented or based on asylum from Mexico and South America, that those folks would, because of birth rates and all kinds of stuff, would overtake they wouldn't overtake white people, but they would grow in such an exponential amount that eventually all the minorities in the country, if you lump them all together, would be bigger than the volume of white people in the country. Now, to be abundantly clear, even in this circumstance, there's more white people in the country than any of those other groups. It is only if you mash everyone from Somali refugees to Mexican business people who have migrated here and opened up $1 million businesses in downtown Los Angeles. Those exist, by the way. It might come as a surprise to the Trumps of the world. That entire spectrum, from Chinese, Filipino, Thai, Russian, Canadians overstaying their visa. I guess technically those would be white people. They would listen. Yeah, guarantee. Inuits. Let's say an Inuit Canadian. Like, all those people. If you lump them all together, there's 2 more of them than there are white Anglo-Saxon Protestants in the country. By 2. Again, if you lump them all together. And that number panicked a section of the religious right so much, and panicked the Stephen Millers of the world so much, that they set forth on a strategy to stop that.
Yep.
And that's what we're seeing. You know how you talk about how they'll put up with Donald Trump showing up on Epstein's flight logs and him being a thrice adulterer that makes even Newt Gingrich was going, think. Oh, no, that's Winnie the Pooh. I always get them mixed up voice-wise. The reason they're okay, forgiving all those things is because Donald Trump provides them with judges, both on the SCOTUS and on the Ninth Circuit and on every federal bench. And as long as he plants a long wick conservative time bomb, I guess you don't need a wick for a time bomb. I mixed my metaphors. I apologize. A long wick, like Wile E. Coyote style bomb in the court system, they can get voted out and still protect their interests, both business-wise and in control over women's physical autonomy for the next 3 decades.
Yay.
Which, by the way, folks, is why you never drop your vote for president or not vote and then complain later when this stuff happens. Because while Bill Clinton did show up on the flight logs, along with Chris Tucker and Kevin Spacey going to Africa, you know who isn't on those flight logs?
Me.
Well, yeah, of course. Have you ever been on a billionaire's plane?
I don't think so. No,
Okay.
I would remember that, I think, right?
Yeah, you would. You're like, I think. That's a really funny thing, too. And did I? Right. I've been on so many billionaires' planes. They all blend together after a while. It's one G5 looks like the next, right? At no point in all of this do you see the name or the direct connection to Barack Hussein Obama or his wife, or for that matter, listen to me, for that matter, Hillary Clinton, because she doesn't. While Bill shows up on the flight logs, Hillary doesn't.
We really need somebody to define what the swamp is at this point and what needs draining.
Well, yeah. I mean, because right now, the sales message, is that, Trump is draining the swamp. Is what he sold. It's what he came in. And then he put a military industrial complex lobbyist in charge of the army. When Edward Snowden, during the 2016 election, Edward Snowden tweeted the choice in this election is between Donald Trump and Goldman Sachs. And Donald Trump proceeded to put
Snowden.
Yeah. Goldman Sachs people in charge of the economy. Yeah, and EO says, you know who's also not on that flight list? Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Joe Biden, who's been in this industry around Democratic donors for a long time. He's run for president before. Epstein was throwing money at Democrats.
Plagiarer.
Bill Richardson ran for president. Bill Richardson was hanging around Epstein. Joe Biden doesn't show up anywhere. As a matter of fact, none of the people running for president on the Democratic side show up in Epstein's flight logs or his Rolodex.
My voting fingers are feeling pretty loosey-goosey.
They are. They're feeling pretty comfortable with your
loving
choices right now.
Yes.
So we got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to take some callers. And we're going to talk about the ICE raids, which, by the way, are going to increase. Count on it. And Trump's BS about winning the wall case, which he did not. We'll be back. Yeah. That's right, Carl. So he's locked these guys in for a long time.
Ugh.
The federal judges aren't going anywhere. Now, it's an interesting thing that Trump is up against is that a lot of these guys share their financial proclivities. They believe they are corporatists, essentially, and they believe in the truest sense, not the illusion corporatist phrase that gets thrown at Democrats all the time, but genuine people who think that the corporations are people and have more value than individual citizens.
My friend.
Yes, exactly. If you look at, what their main gist is as federal judges, what they will really protect if held against a wall, where their judgment will be skewed by their leanings, by their intellectual and philosophical beliefs. It will be in the financial sector. It will be in the corporate sector. The occasional anti-abortion judge will act on their beliefs and try to limit this. But the higher you go up, the more they recognize the body autonomy aspect of the laws around what would be the slippery slope argument, where they recognize that if they eliminate a woman's right to choose, it is very simple to enact laws where the government has control over not just female bodies, but male bodies as well. And if you can force someone, well, don't even get me started on the forced ultrasound thing and the RFID chip fear that these knuckleheads get. Explain this to me, Johnny, before we come back from break. Oh, wait, we're coming back.
Okay. Don't explain yet.
This is Ron Calgo.
And this is Robbie Earhart.
And you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
That's a lot to say. Why doesn't he just say the Hal Sparks Show?
I mean that's much simpler, isn't it?
I know. We're a Mighty House radio show. That's easy.
You could probably save time by just cutting off that stinger that they made for me right after they say the name of the show. If they're so worried about time.
I think it's already been edited. I remember it being longer.
It was. Yeah.
And a little more painful.
It could get even shorter. I'm just saying.
It could. But
let's take a call.
Appreciate their support wholeheartedly.
Right. Let's take a call. Who do we have there, Devin?
First, we got Ike out in Charleston.
Oh, right on. Hey, Ike.
Hey, Al. Yeah, this is exactly what I figured was going to happen with Epstein, so I'm not surprised, but I can just tell you that in the federal system, a cell that's made for suicide watch, there is no way to hang yourself from anything in one of those cells. There's nothing in that cell. There's no exposed bars. Even the light comes in reflected from the outside and in the hallway. There is no opening in the ceiling. There's nothing. You're done. Okay, so look, this is the very first thing I thought would happen to him, so it's not a surprise to me. And yes, they will sweep this under the rug, and the only hope that you have is that the the better angels amongst us that are not, susceptible to $1 million bribes or intimidation will go on and carry the case, and whether it's through the civil courts or through investigation, which you're right with Bob Barr being the Attorney General, good luck with that.
Can you imagine a world, for a second, literally, we're talking about a situation right now, which you're bringing up, where death row inmates who are guilty of multiple murder have an ethical issue with Jeffrey Epstein that the current Attorney General may not. You know what I mean?
Well, this is one of those deals where, a little bit of my life experience comes into play. Yeah, there's two people that we don't particularly care for. One is the pedophile, and the other one's anybody that abuses or rapes an older woman in their 80s. And I've been around people of that sort, and they don't last long, okay? And that's probably telling a chat more than that's telling people a lot more than they need to know about me. But, I'm okay now.
Right.
But listen, here's the deal. You got to know both sides of the coin. Otherwise, you're not really going to get the picture. And the overall and over-under on this is at the very most, they'll find a guard to hang with it, or they'll find an inmate to hang with it, or they're going to sweep it under the rug. And actually, the place that you're most vulnerable, that type of person is most vulnerable when he's in a suicide watch cell, is poison in the food. And that's been known to be done too.
There's a bunch of areas where if you're a billionaire and you're getting visits from your lawyer, getting somebody to bring you something like a kill bill or something that either against your will or because you've asked for it doesn't seem that outside the realm of possibility.
I don't think Epstein was man enough to kill himself. I think that the contract was out on him as soon as they locked him down and they busted into that New York house, and they probably got enough out of that safe, and they probably got videos. They probably got a ton of stuff, which is now going to disappear, just like it did with the D.C. Madam. Let me get into this the ICE raids. Okay.
Yes.
Let's get something straight, people. And I know you people are going to hate me for this, but I'm just going to say it like it is. There's the rule of law, and there's not the rule of law. Are we going to have laws, or are we not going to have laws? Okay. Now look, I've broken a lot of laws in my time. Okay, it's cost me a lot in my lifetime. But you know what? Every time I got caught doing whatever it is that I've done, I took it. I took the hit. I did the time. I paid the fine. I did whatever they made me do after that, and I didn't blame anybody else. I blame me because I knew I broke the law. Okay, and that's the way this is going to go down here. Now, these raids, everybody can cry everybody else a river, but here's the sad fact of the matter: these people broke the law. The owners of that plant broke the law, and that's where we're having a problem. We've got a problem with law and order and justice. Epstein's a good example of it, and this is a good example of it. They should have frog marched those supervisors out of there. They should have frog marched and got that damn owner, and they better be checking that guy. That billionaire owns a bunch more of those plants. They should be going through every one of his plants and all his records, and by God, start charging these people. But here's the other thing. Look, victimhood is real easy to play on. Okay, I could sit here and cry you a river about the times I got in trouble when I was just basically in the wrong place at the wrong time. Really didn't have anything to do with it, but I was there. Okay, but be that as it may, I don't play victimhood. You are responsible for what you do, and people get arrested and they go to jail every day in this country, and their kids are left at home, or they've got to be, grandma's got to take care of them, or the sister's got to take care of them, or whatever. This is nothing new. Okay, let's put the onus where the onus belongs. It belongs with the employers. It belongs with the United States government, and that's both parties, because they didn't enforce the law, and they didn't maintain our borders, and they didn't support and defend our borders, and they didn't apply the law, the immigration law, and they let the employers go out here and do what they've been doing. And then it also is incumbent, as no matter where they came from or who they are, just like when I went to Australia, I knew if I overstayed my visa, I was going to be an illegal. Okay? They knew as well, whether they came here and overstayed a visa or whether they snuck into the country. So personal responsibility's got to be played into this, and quit making the American workers the ones that have paid the price for this over and over again by having jobs taken away from them, by having our wages put down to the toilet to where we can't get a raise, to where we can't make a decent living, because you continue to allow the lower end of the labor market to be flooded. We're sick and tired of it. And by not addressing this problem, let me tell you something. These people that are going nuts like this, and they're taking guns and they're just losing their cool, and they're taking it out on innocent people, that's a symptom. That's not the problem. The problem was created by the employers and by the government. And by God, after a while of getting kicked, you know what? Eventually, dog's going to get up and snap you in the butt.
Well, you're not wrong.
I
And
hate to
here's
be that way, but it's
here's
true.
one of the things about this particular raid. First of all, they snatched up American citizens in this as well, simply who were Hispanic, who were actual citizens who worked there amongst them.
About 300 of them.
Yeah, and they released them. And they released, I think, 20 or 30 others for humanitarian reasons, meaning that they were the sole parent in a home, and the child was there. So they gave him an ankle monitor or supervision or something, but released them, and then kept the rest, who are either single or they have somebody at home, like a mother that can watch the children, and they're going to go through the deportation proceedings because they're here illegally. The curious thing about this raid, to me, and they kept it on the down low, and ICE is now not telling the president essentially where they're going. He's given them the blind order, so they don't have to, but they don't want him to tweet about it and ruin the whole thing. He even kind of remarked on that.
Right.
The interesting thing about the Mississippi raids is that both of the places that they raided that got the most news are owned by a Chinese businessman in Los Angeles. And there are no large ag Chinese businessmen who operate in Los Angeles who aren't connected to the Chinese government in some way. Like, they all have distribution networks in China or whatever, and if you have that, then you have to have, connection therein. And to me, this looks like part of that tariff warfare. I'm guessing there are a bunch of American-owned, like white American-owned, and Mexican-owned even, ag businesses that are doing the exact same thing that aren't getting these targets put on their back that should.
And here's the you're
that's
right.
the only
And
reason
here's
this
the exact
happened.
Point. And here's the exact point that I was going to make too. Look, this is nothing but for show. This this still doesn't mean they're enforcing the immigration laws. This still doesn't mean that they're really doing anything. All that was for show. Okay. Right. Because you know as well as I do, all they've got to do is come out tomorrow and say, okay, every employer in this country, you've got 6 months, and I want every one of your employees to be run through.
We're talking you, Mar-a-Lago.
Straight up, every business. And you know what? As soon as they're flagged and identified, then at that point, it's up to law enforcement to deal with them. And you watch the hell that's going to come from the business side is going to far outweigh what the workers in this country have been saying. And they're going to continue to kick the workers' cans down the road, and they're going to continue to ignore us, and they're going to continue to call us bigots. They're going to continue to call us a bunch of malcontents when we're the ones that, like I've said before, I can guarantee you, I promise you this, my man, if these people were coming in and taking lawyers' jobs, if they were coming in and taking
it would have
doctors'
changed
jobs,
years ago. Yeah.
Oh, buddy, they would have shut that way the hell down real quick. So again, hey, chat room, I'm not a bigot. I'm not a racist. This is an economic issue that I've lived with since 1986 and before, and I'm sick and tired of it. And our kids need better jobs. We need better benefits. We need higher wages. And the only way to get that is tighten up the labor market.
You're not wrong, and I think they're taking advantage of that reality to also push the president's own personal agenda. They have found overlap where they can take advantage of that. And that's the area where they're using it as a campaign thing. He looked at the build that wall thing and recognize that while the wall is a metaphor that certain people on his followers like, that on the other side, in both liberal and democratic and even the Sanders world, people recognize that a watered-down labor market is very hard for unions and other people to make progress in both salary. It's one of the reasons salaries are statistically depressed, and it remains so is because of illegal use of migrant work. If we have a system in place where, like E-Verify or those kind of things are put in place where migrants can come over, work a little bit, and then go home, and it's an understood part of the market, then at least you can compete against it. But no one has competition against someone who is effectively a wage slave, who doesn't have a better choice, and can be dumped anytime they want.
These kids are getting eat up in something they call the gig market, the gig market now, and they're actually going along with the idea that they can be paid $10.99 under the table, be paid cash, and be responsible for their own taxes, which at the end of the year they're not going to pay anyway. And the IRS has been allowing that law to be broke forever. So has the Labor Department. So don't tell me my government hasn't been screwing me, because they have. And it's not the Mexicans' fault. It's not the Irish or the Russians or any of the rest of these people's fault. They want a better deal. They get a better deal because $10 an hour to them is $1 million.
That's right. And they can afford to send half of it over to their families who are in a financially depressed country where that money goes way farther. Look, I was raised in a certain way that I thought I had a certain way that I was going to live. I was going to have a house. I was going to have the cars, life insurance, pension, retirement, all this stuff that I thought I was going to have. Well, guess what? Over the years, they've taken every damn bit of it away from me. But the people that come in underneath me, particularly illegal and from other poor countries, they love it. They love it. Well, because they don't ever expect it. So that, because the circumstance they're in, every scrap is worth it. We have to take a break, Ike. We went into the break a full 3 minutes, but I appreciate it, and I'm glad we got a moment for you to talk. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Parks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Cool. Johnny, you have that read, right?
I do.
We'll do that again.
Okay.
We come back.
Did you ever get my forwarding?
I did not, for some reason. So
that's weird.
I think my iCloud storage is full, which is entirely possible. So I will give you another email address, and you can send it to that one and see if it works. That way, I think, because I have like 6 email addresses. I don't know how anybody retires an email address once it's died. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I could.
Yeah, the only ones that I've officially retired are the ones that I've got that one. Are the ones that like were attached to like
businesses or
something.
Yeah. Oh, right. Or yeah, particular service. Yeah, and even those you only use them temporary. It's so weird. Julie in our chat room saying, has Trump tweeted about Jeffrey Epstein yet? I don't think so. Not today. He has before, I think. Just the denial. And I think that's one of those staff
this last one you just sent me, I don't remember it ending like that. I've got it ending with me.com.
That doesn't matter. Yeah. Mac, iCloud, and me.com all go the same place.
Okay, good.
Yep.
I just didn't know if it would fall victim to the same
no
cloud thing. All right, sent again.
60 seconds, guys.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Are you guys sending files? Try Resilio Sync. Thanks, Joseph. I will try that at some point. You think it will say, if anything? Oof. Post-show. We'll talk about that on the post-show. I think we're coming back. It's been weird doing the show with the echo in my head, but we're surviving.
I can hear it every now and then.
Yeah, I've got...
I'm Dick Kay from Back on the Beat, and here is the mega worldwide radio program with Hal Sparks.
Welcome back. So, Ravinia.org.
I know,
Steely
I keep hearing
Dan
about it.
is coming to play at Ravinia, which... Is it just me? John, you might know this. No one in Steely Dan is blind, are they?
No, not that I know of.
You know, for the longest time, I thought Roy Orbison was blind.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't. But he wore those, like, opaque glasses where you're like...
some very chunky eyewear, which
Yeah,
is
I'm sure
associated-
nothing is getting through.
Right.
Right. Meanwhile, I've always looked at, when you see blind players playing, I love Jeff Healey, love Stevie Wonder, love Ray
Right.
Charles. There's a way you feel music and move, I guess, when your visual senses are not present and it is consistent. And it always
Which is
occurred to
why
me.
you're suggesting that we blind the members of Steely Dan.
No, I'm not. How'd you guess?
It's controversial, but I think I'm on board.
That's right. I just always thought for the longest time, because he had this the main dude in Steely Dan. Please forgive me for not knowing their names, because I'm like, which one? I have a very Pink Floyd relationship with them.
Yeah,
which one's Dan?
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So, but they're coming to Ravinia.
Yeah, man.
When is that?
Oh, you never got it. I'm sorry. I keep doing that to you. Yeah, they are good. They're playing 2 shows at Ravinia. They are playing both Sunday, September 1st and Monday, September 2nd. And they are some of the earliest, like, popular rock jazz fusion and their recordings had the best studio musicians of all time. Steve Gadd, Steve Lukather.
Right.
From Michael McDonald sang backups on a lot of their.
But that's true of everyone in music, though.
Yeah,
that's unfair. Because Michael McDonald,
yeah, but like pre-Doobies, they had Michael. And when you read interviews about people who worked with Steely Dan, they're all like, they try to be very diplomatic, but they're like, yeah, they knew what they wanted. They knew exactly.
They made me play it.
Yeah, they made me play it 18,000 times.
Right.
So if you know if the word Steely Dan mean band to you, I think seeing them at Ravinia would be perfect.
Deacon Blues is, I think, one of my favorite things.
Deacon Blues is giant. Hey 19, Ricky, don't lose that number. And actually, you know what?
I think that was the first "Don't Lose My Number" song that I'd heard, because you and I grew up in the era of Phil Collins.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and so there were a lot of "Don't Lose My Phone Number." Talk about a period piece musically.
It really is.
Yeah, nobody worries about that anymore. It's like today it would be like Ricky, don't lose my Snapchat. It's a membership only service. Right.
Like right when you hear
yeah, and you're like, I feel much better.
Like, I like this song. You stop and turn it up.
Yes, and Ike the Ranter who was just on the phone with us, is also nice enough to remind us where they got their number from. I mean, their name from.
Oh, yeah. I can tell you.
Yeah, I bet you could.
It's the British term for I believe, I'm not going to say the name, but I believe the initials are
a phallic device of pleasure. Yes?
Hello?
Wouldn't you say? Yes, like that? It's a phallic device of pleasure. So
sure.
How do we dance around this on the air? I don't know. Anyways, so they're coming to Ravinia. When?
The September 1st and 2nd.
Oh, yeah.
And they are also, and that's a Sunday and a Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So those are two different shows. And then they also, coming up later at Ravinia, are OAR, who I'm not familiar with, but I am familiar with Morrissey.
Too depressing for me, but I'm very excited about Lenny Kravitz.
Yeah, and
he's also coming. So go to ravinia.org for tickets and their schedule and to go. Go outside, see some music. Especially like you and I are both metalheads. Like you were,
yes.
You know, we share a Kiss affinity that I think is both inhuman, unnatural, and completely justified. And I knew you as a Queen fan.
Yes.
You know, almost before anything else. Like these were your parallel tracks. Mine was, I think in high school, it was Kiss, and then all hair bands plus Metallica and I guess it's Queensryche. I don't qualify that, you know, as a hair band per se.
Yeah, no, they were just progressive metal that happened to have a couple of radio hits.
That's right. And we, in high school, this is one of the reasons why we were simpatico, why we shared so much, both on a personal level, musically, and all this stuff. Like, there was just an instant respect that I had for you when I heard your music taste. I was like, this guy is good.
Yeah, it was undeniable.
Yes.
For both of us.
And, yeah.
I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to have to be friends with this guy.
Oh, damn it. We like the same things. And he's funny. You had a terrible time.
Did we just become best friends? Like
we did.
Brothers?
Yes. Right. So, all right, back to the horror that is life.
It's so true. We have like these nice little moments. It's like, all right, so back to the white supremacists.
By the way, yeah. So, as we look forward to these next, couple of the next year and a half leading into the election, understand that one of the areas where Trump will tie people in knots and this focuses on what Ike was talking about, is going to be immigration, because the Republicans have been specifically blocking, either as a group when they have control of both houses or the Senate particularly, or individually when they put blind holds on bills, have been stopping comprehensive immigration reform for decades. And same thing with gun violence, same thing with gun laws. If it hasn't been the party as a whole, it's been individual members of that party. We may have a bone to pick with not having a single payer part of the ACA because of some blue dog Democrats who wouldn't vote for it because they knew they couldn't get it reelected in their district and fought it, right? And grouped together. There was enough of them. There was like 11 or 12 of them that put a stop to that for political reasons. But there have been individuals in the Republican Party who have run interference for the NRA for years that have stopped, just normal common sense gun laws.
Yep.
And, ultimately responsible for the end of the assault weapons ban. And
there used to be an assault weapons ban.
Yeah.
And
okay,
nobody.
Let's talk guns
first. Came to people's houses to take their guns.
Right before I go to break, might as well set the people off. Let's talk gun nuts. Two big defenses keep coming up with the right about the AR-15 and guns like it, and its category as an assault weapon, and how they'll put up a picture of an old Remington wooden rifle and an AR-15 and go, ooh, one looks scary and one doesn't, but they're basically the same thing. When they know full well that the question is about magazine capacity in the case of these things. The guy who killed 20 people and injured 30 more in less than 30 seconds had a 100-shot drum on his single-shot rifle. So this idea that there's an essential difference between those things and fully automatic machine guns is ridiculous. An AR-15 and the rifles like it are a pipe bomb you can use over and over again. And magazine capacity is absolutely the issue in these circumstances. Not caliber, not the trigger speed, but it is the fact that you can shoot 30 to 100 rounds without having to reload as fast as you can pull your trigger that make these things different than every other hunting rifle and every handgun out there. And the fact that they have the stabilizing factor of being a rifle, which allow you to shoot more accurately and for a longer period of time than a handgun, that make them more dangerous even than a handgun with a larger clip, which also has a weight aspect in a single hand that affects their viability as a weapon of mass destruction. So an AR-15 and the rifles like it serve the purpose of you can kill as many people as you want. These open carry idiots who think they're just displaying their right to bear arms by walking around with an AR-15 as if anybody but a gun expert or somebody who owns one from 25 to 30 feet away can tell the difference between an automatic, a fully automatic and a semi-automatic machine gun, an AR-15 and an M16 before the gunfire starts, just allows anyone who manages to get a fully automatic rifle within feet of a school or a church or a mall, simply because these idiots have pushed the bar so low for what public decency in terms of gun carrying is, that you can now no longer stop someone on their way to a kill zone without violating their rights. This is what they're pushing. And we had a guy yesterday who was detained by an armed citizen and another, until the cops showed up because he felt the need to. This is where we are right now.
Well, thank goodness for that good guy with a gun. Right.
Who had a handgun, by the way. Didn't need to carry around an AR-15. And again, in common sense gun regulations and concealed carry laws and having a license and being a valid gun owner, there's a huge drop-off from the guy who has a handgun who's worried about self-defense because of his job, his circumstances, his public profile.
Right.
And an idiot who's carrying around an AR-15 wearing a bulletproof vest to make a point that he should be able to walk into a Walmart that way because we live in a free country. You're a moron.
There's no like thick as thieves mutual respect
in that
those
area.
Two
no.
groups.
No. But the illusion is, because of the NRA, is that there is.
Right.
And if you care about the safety of your average American citizen, one of the things you don't do is make it easy for anyone to walk around carrying a machine gun or anything that looks like it in public without being asked a question. That's not your goal. Because if this was 3 Muslim dudes walking around open carrying because they're American citizens expressing their right, these guys would have opened fire in a Walmart on them without ever calling the cops. Forget it. So magazine capacity is a huge issue, and anybody who denies that it isn't is planning on killing cops in the future. Because that's the only reason you need 100 rounds for self-defense is if you're the bad guy. If you're the murderer. And if you want to argue that some people need it because they got to shoot hogs on their property, because they have a wild hog problem, then get a license and never bring it into a city. There's a rule.
And please video the hog slaughter, because that sounds really compelling.
Oh, they will. They do. Yeah. Yeah, wild hogs are no joke. So if you want to argue that's what you need it for, make it. And none of the guys doing that should have a problem with going, yeah, we got a couple of these things because we got to deal with this problem. If you're being a citizen and participating in society, you don't worry about the registration of those kind of things. If you're planning a sovereign citizen uprising like a nutcase, you do. If you're a prepper, you do. And that means like the mother of the Sandy Hook shooter. We got to take a break. We'll be back. Yeah, and Act in our chat room says there's a video of a white guy open carrying versus a black guy open carrying the exact same weapon, and the white guy wasn't bothering the black guy was. You know, one of the reasons why the black guy was? Because the chances are, in an open carry situation, the black guy's not going to open fire on you on approach. So the cops have time to walk up to you and do that. But the white guy very well may be on his way to killing someone. So they have to handle him with kid gloves. They're actually safer with the open carry guy who's black, statistically. It's weird.
That's really weird.
Let's see. Abdullah is Muslim and black, and a constitutionalist will never carry a firearm into a public arena because I would be killed. Yes.
60 seconds, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Happy, happy, joy, joy, where art thou? Yeah, seriously, can't stop lying. We need a happy ending for the end of this, clearly.
I've got mine.
You do?
Oh,
nice. Yeah. Well, then I feel so much better. Yeah, we're gonna end the show with this whole segment on this because it's been ugly enough. We don't even need to start back into this.
Yeah, no. And when the news comes rolling in, sometimes I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Now I've got to talk about that. I don't even want to read it once.
I have a new favorite science term that I'm going to talk about. It's not new. It's new.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. It's now time for the happy ending. Yay!
Yeah, it certainly is. You know what? Can we play the happy ending theme real quick? Because I think we all need it this week.
I am happy, you are happy, let us be happy together. Whether the weather is cloudy or sunny, I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky, let us get lucky together. Whether the weather is cloudy or breezy, I'll be there to say, hey, come on, let's take it easy. Cause isn't it nice to have the friends that you do? And isn't it nice that the sky is so blue? And isn't it nice to say I love you, chugga chugga choo choo, woo woo.
Okay, so for the rest of the show today, because we've dealt with such awful, and we will continue, because the fallout from this stuff is going to continue, and we will handle it. And all I'm saying, people, is vote blue no matter who. Okay, so Johnny has a happy ending. I have a happy ending, not the least of which is that at this point, I'm almost certain that I'm going to fly in to see Steely Dan at Ravinia, just because I just realized how, like, loosey-goosey happy that music makes me when I hear it.
Yeah.
Because technically, I would hate it if you use my normal metal standards for music. Same with you. There's maybe your Queen gives you a little bit more room, to appreciate some jazzy stuff, but from a adult contemporary artist kind of way, that's in the world of like 70s groove stuff. Tribally, I should hate it, but I don't, And so I might have to come in for it. And if I do, you're going with me.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So that being said, We both got happy ending stuff.
My
today.
happy ending is so funny that you keep saying this. I saw Queen and Adam Lambert last night at the United Center in Chicago.
Wow.
And I, because I'm an old man with a paycheck, I have decided to see concerts the way I want to see them, and paid way more than I should have, and got sixth row, which was, I brought my wife, and she had a great time too. But sixth row was ridiculous, because that's like the ramp, the ego ramp that comes out where they can walk. We ended up being like as close as any first row seat when they would come walking down the ramp, and the pictures and everything that I've got of Brian May and Roger Taylor and the set list that they played and just celebrating Freddie Mercury with that whole crowd was unreal. It was a really good night.
I'm very happy for you, and I know, and it makes me a little sad, that I've never been in your presence when you've been as happy as you were at that moment. So,
oh yeah, you will be.
And yeah, I'm very excited for you. Okay, so this is there's a couple of things news-wise in the world of science that I am very excited about. As often, you know me in 3D printing, you know me, and the removal of lead from our environment. These are my two main scientific, like I have a radar for them. But one of the things was that scientists are now able to harness a factor called superlubricity. Superlubricity is when things are more slippery than ice or, oil or banana peels or whatever.
Keep going. Slow down.
Yes, exactly. Just say it slower. So yeah, superlubricity is an absolute factor. So they defy friction. This is a huge step forward in the last 16 months. But they have literally basically they're developing materials that defy friction at an atomic level, which I think the only time we've seen anything even close is the non-industrial food varnish that Clark Griswold is working on in National Lampoon's Vacation, and he sprays their sled with it, their little sled disc, and the kid just rockets. Yeah,
that's the best.
Yeah. So superlubricity is on its way. It's the next best thing to defying gravity, which is also something that I've been paying a lot of attention to lately, because can I just say, and I'm calling out both Bill Nye and Tyson, dark energy, dark matter.
Yeah.
Moronic. It's a stupid concept. It's invented to fill gaps in bad math. I'm saying it, and I don't care. Come at me, bro. And Elon Musk, it's synthetic intelligence, not artificial intelligence. It's going to exist one day, and you don't want to piss it off. All right. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Johnny Million. Love you so much. We'll see you next guy. Yeah, see you next time. Thanks, Devin. Cheers. Thank you, Chicago.
The history of Air America lives here. This is WCPT 820.
That's a promo.
Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Here you go. Cheers, Devin. See you later, Johnny.
See ya. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you. I will.
Talk to you next week.
I insist. I think this is great. You sounded good.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Yeah. So you don't have to make the trip down. You can be on regularly.
That's the best.
Yes. You do need to be a little louder coming my way, because I boosted you on this side.
Okay, I'm in the yellow when I look at it.
Okay.
On the little meter.
Yeah,
So
on your
I can-
meter you might need. Oh, and on the site, you mean?
Yeah, on the clean feed site.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
tickling yellow.
I think it's a little more protective than you think. Because I've got you on plus 3 dB on my side.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, I've got headroom.
Yeah. So if you've got headroom,
up.
bring it up. Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit. It wouldn't take much. All right. Love you.
Cool.
Very happy you
Love
got to
you
go to the
too.
concert. I'm kind of serious about the Steely Dan thing. We should talk to CPT about tickets.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, if I'm going to keep doing these live reads for free.
Right?
Yeah. I think we need tickets. I think we do.
I think so, too. I would totally see that show.
Me too. All right. Love you. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye.
Goodbye. Hey, chat room. Look at that. We just had a little moment. Now I get to take my headphones out, and I don't hear the echo, and it's so much easier, and I can't believe it, and it's so great to be able to do that stuff. Black holes matter. Sparks, I feel so slick all over now. I want to roll back, because I missed a lot of chat today, because obviously this stuff was hard to talk about, and there was tons of it, and oh my God, just the grotesqueness of all these stories is just, yeah. So, Dark Matter was a sci-fi series last season. They killed the main character off. Yeah, not only is it a bad scientific theory, but the series didn't live up to it either. He does need another 3 to 4 dB. I agree. On his end, though, I couldn't bring him up anymore without it getting weird on my side. So we'll figure it out. Porn chat starts now. Again, this goes to the whole consensual sex aspect of this whole thing. Is that, like, in all this, in the world of Epstein and Weinstein and Cosby and to some degree the Louis and the Azizes of the world, although I do think there's a different category in there. And then, of course, I think consensual heterosexual sex in all of its forms has gotten a bad rap. I blame these guys. Just not right. You know what I mean? So, yeah, absolutely can't stop lying. Just like the moral collapse that was on display this week was. Oh, did I get quiet all of a sudden? Did the volume go down? Oh, it might have been because I was looping back through the USB audio codec, so perhaps that's it. I think that's part of the thing. Let me see, because I think once that kicks off, nope, there's still a delay, and I don't know why that is. I'm going to have it today. I'm going to have it today just to have. Oh, right, good for you. Super lubricity, the new secret assassin weapon. Spray it on the sides of shoes. Right. Mic volume is low. Okay. Well, I will bring that up as best I can. Volume, and then I think it can direct monitor. Should we direct monitor? This little guy right here. This is what I get for, the direct monitor of the CPU. I don't know what the delay is, but that's a aspect. It might just be the USB codec on this thing. It needs an update. Either way, I was trying out. The volume is way down. Okay, good to know. I see the volume very high on both the send out here and on there, so I will check. Might be inside the system being a jerk, and it's entirely possible that this is kind of thing going on. And nope, it's all in there. That's very weird. All right. Perhaps we try these different things. Let's see. All right, I'm jacking this. This is as high as it goes. Oh, I got in the red there for a second. That's weird. Yeah, it might just be that it was doubling audio on the going out, but hey, check one. Check one. Is this better? Check one. Check two. Anybody? Better? Fine. Okay, good. Yeah, it was some sort of weird click over. That's odd. Yeah, and there's still delay. Is there a delay on my voice at all, or is it are you hearing it at the same time? There's just Hitman is killing the codex. That's right. Remember when I saw you for the very first time, you looked so peaceful, so I watched you and your comedy made me laugh. Aw, thanks, Amy. I try. I'm at max on my phone. Okay. Perfect. No delay. Good. All right. Excellent. Thank you. It's fine before, just lower, but I have full headphones. I see. Totally gamed out. That's good. No chorus. Loop is clean. Lovely. Thank you very much. Yeah, I was experimenting today. Carl probably noticed more than anything. Different microphone today because I'm using a direct USB mic. This Samson G-Track, which I've used before and sounds great on certain instruments, but it's by itself, it's just a USB microphone. I will try the Shure one next time, and I'm basically testing each one of these. I know the quality of them going in is good, but it's a matter of like how their drivers work going through clean feed and the show feed to the website, all that stuff. Best thing to happen this week was Ron Burgundy on Stephen Colbert in character for the whole hour. Yeah, he came in, he did Conan's show as well, doing like character stuff. I think they're toying with the idea of doing a third movie, which I think would be a great idea. Yeah, you can see the stuff I've already vetted on my Amazon site, which is amazon.com/shop/HalSparks. There you go. I know you would, Carl. I know you guys noticed. No pop shield or dead kitten. This is true. There was I was worried a little bit that there might be a little bit of pop on this one, but it's got an internal thing to protect against it. So, yeah, it's the codec issue. Cindy. Wait, is that? Yeah, okay. Get a good Rode mic like an NT1. Yeah, I've seen those. They're amazing. I'm trying not to purchase any more stuff yet, so we can use the Patreon to save up for a new computer, because that's the weakest link right now. Is that I'm using all the we're just basically stacking the Patreon dollars until we can afford a new computer for here, and that'll be the big deal. That'll be the biggest step forward. Yeah. Yeah, it's a codec moment. Yeah, he was on all the late night show. It's kind of amazing. There's a bit of a pop when I say pop. Okay, well, I'll talk off. He has a podcast as Ron Burgundy? That's genius. Maybe that's the next movie, and they're doing it all meta, where he's being Ron Burgundy doing, I've moved into podcasting now. And he starts he becomes like the Adam Carolla storyline. Trying to figure out how to work my Fire Stick. Lord. Can we get Paul Anka to sing a song about your codec? Yeah, right. He did do the Tonight Show theme, so, we can get him, I think, right? Need to get out of here. See you next week, and some of you in Steph's chat room this week. Thanks, Hal Vickery. Appreciate it, brother. And thanks for the super chat earlier. I missed, that was early on. I think Hal Vickery did that when we first started up. So I didn't get, we were in mid-thought, so I didn't get to roll back to it. So, yes, thank you, Hal Vickery, for the 666, for the Jeffrey Epstein May He Rot Without Peace Fund. Appreciate that so much. And thank you guys, the Patreon supporters this week. Bless you. You guys, those of you especially that are coming to the Flapper show tomorrow night, let me know on there. Send me a message, and we'll get you in. And the nice thing about the Flappers gigs, because it's the launch of this one, it's the launch of the Burbank Comedy Festival, where I will be debuting impersonations. That's right. I have never in my act done but maybe 2 impersonations in the entire time that I've done it. And I have a list that I've been running for years of the impersonations that I have. So I'm going to debut them on Sunday. I have no prep for this. I'm just making a blind list. I may put them in a hat, I think, or something. And because I was going to do a spin the wheel, like a wheel of impersonations, and then peel off one of the things, but I didn't know what party store to go to get one of those things. I went to Michael's, and I thought about it, but I was like, I have a gig. So I don't have time in the rehearsals and all that kind of stuff to make a wheel of impressions for one show. But if you're a Patreon, you'll get to see the show. I'm going to upload it. Thank you. And Amos. I feel solid about my Trump, but I have a bunch that are way better. So there you go. One of them is Michael McDonald. I guess I could do that. You know, my theory that you can sing Michael McDonald gibberish to any wave jazz. Like if you turn on the like 94.7 The Wave, and if they have an instrumental song on, let's see if I can do this. If they have a wave jazz song on The Wave, you can sing gibberish Michael McDonald to them. Any of their songs. Let's see if I can, if it'll play it. Let's see. Oh, I have to play. Okay. I don't know what they're playing. They're playing Michael Jackson right now, so I clearly can't do that one. So never mind. It has to be a something without words or whatever, but you can basically go, here to go to Merky Dookie Bong, which is basically like the Swedish Chef meets Michael McDonald. You know, do the wheel. I gotta build the wheel. Lady B, hi. Lady B's in the chat. Do the wheel. I'm gonna have to. That'll become part of the show. So here we go. We'll start a fresh top of the show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide post show. Thank you so much for being here with us. We're live from Los Angeles because after I finish today, we've got rehearsal. We're gonna in this room. We're gonna run our set and then drive up to Santa Barbara, do a band gig. 01 is playing tonight at Whiskey Richards. It's sort of a Bumper birthday show because Bumper's birthday is next week. And so I'm doing that show tonight, and then tomorrow night is Flappers, the opening of the I'm kicking off the Burbank Comedy Festival because what better face to launch the Burbank Comedy Festival than mine? I thought Michael McDonald was Swedish Chef meets Michael McDonald. You might be right. So it's so nice to have Lady B in here. Everybody's so excited to see you, Lady B. That's so great. Hi. Are you watching from home? That's so great. Contractual, got to go get my groove on later, peeps. Hi, Crying Brian from me. Oh, I will say hi to Crying Bro. He's going to be doing the show. He's going to be doing sets for the Burbank Comedy Festival. I'm getting together with him. Some of you may know him from his stint in 01. Yeah. I did almost 11 years. I like my new shirt. Mess with the cowgirl and you'll leave here a gelding. Yeah, I don't know why either. I don't know why anybody wouldn't like that. Hi. That's so cool. I like the special guest on Mar, but you're right about the mooch. Yeah. Can you do... If it coming on, keep on holding on, here coming on. That's what he does. That's Michael McDonald. I keep again not in love anymore. Yes. So yeah, I will throw just for you guys. I will throw Michael McDonald in there. He was not on the list because I didn't have any of the musical ones in there. It's because now I would need music cues. Great. Now I'm adding production. Sheesh. Please stop that. I'm glad I'm coming in with your McDonald. Yes, absolutely. Michael McDonald really stinks up a track. Really, Nacho Tube? I think, again, that's sort of the, how about Chicago listener group party at the Ravinia Steely Dan thing? If so, Lady B-U-N. I think that's a great idea. You're causing my cats to look. I wonder how, if this is why Michael McDonald doesn't have cats. Or if the thing on his face is actually not a beard, it's actually one of his cats. Like if you sing that way that long enough, you're like, here coming, here coming, and it just attaches itself to your face. That's entirely possible. Yeah. I love McDonald found that offensive. I don't rule out Brad's idea, though, of a listener group at the Steely Dan show. That's a, Or at least, yeah. I gotta start, seeing if I can make that happen. Because any excuse to go to Chicago, quite frankly. Suddenly Chud attacks. That's right. It's like, as I'm doing this. I keep forgetting, not in love anymore. I keep forgetting. Better skip doing your excellent Mitch McConnell. You'll be hurting all night and in the morning. Yeah, no. Shoving your chin back that far is the hardest part.
I'm against anything that would help.
The amazing thing is that he doesn't actually have a Kentucky accent. That would be one of the big sticking points for me as a Kentucky voter. Okay, Brad's going to be our navigator, everybody. If we go to the Ravinia show. Well, that's the thing about Michael McDonald is there's just something kind of, it's like Hall and Oates. Like you can't argue with it. You're like, oh yeah, I get that. I see how that's pleasurable. Wakacha. Paul Beckett with it. So yeah. If you guys have any sunken chin as a birth defect, I don't think it's a birth defect. I think he's just got a weak chin, but he also it's part of also how he spoke, the Borscht Turtle. Yeah, Moscow Mitch. Does Rand have a Kentucky accent? No. Neither of those do. But Rand's a carpetbagger. He's from, I don't think he was even alleges that he was raised in Kentucky. I don't know where that family is from, but we'll have to look on their wiki. Oh, his is, Maureen? Mm-hmm. Let's see. He was born in Pittsburgh, in Pennsylvania. Yeah. Damn, city folk carpetbagger. Yeah. Yeah, he became an ophthalmologist in Bowling Green in 93, where he gave himself his own award. Because Kentucky's the only state you can go to where you can give yourself an award. And that was also part of the whole Get Kentucky strategy that they've been pushing. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't, like... Yeah. Let's see if he's... Let's see. He's born in Alabama. Grew up in Athens. That's so weird. This I did not know. Okay, so McConnell's, the upper left part of his leg was paralyzed due to polio when he was young, when he was 2. And he got treatment at Warm Springs Institute in Georgia, which saved him from being disabled for the rest of his life. And his family, quote, almost went broke because of the costs related to his illness. And yet, all he does is fight tooth and nail. AG Barr announces investigation in Epstein's suicide because he wasn't on suicide watch. Wow, that just happened? News. Mm-hmm. Is it? So, 90% of the world's population apparently carries a virus that lays dormant in your body until your immune system gets weakened by stress and other illnesses. It causes fatigue and malaise. It can give you a sore throat, headache. It's, hold on, slow. Fever, of course. Muscle aches, swollen lymph nodes, and sensitivity to light. It's activated by stress, wears you out. It can cause shortness of breath, which can in turn cause, a variety of anxiety-related stuff. Basically, fever, all the kind of flu-like symptoms. There you go. Edward's on it. Edward knows. Muscle aches. It's not a disease. It's called, yeah. And it's called Epstein-Barr. We live. I mean, my argument that we live in a simulation in my last special. Really, 90% of humans on the planet have it, and it's called Epstein-Barr. What are the odds? You know what I mean? It kind of reminds me of that old joke, like, how did Lou Gehrig not know he was going to die of that disease? I mean, it had his name written all over it. That joke, but how do we know that the names Epstein and Barr aren't just hideous? Yeah, Epstein-Barr is the last place you should drink, or the last thing a lawyer should pass. I'm talking to you, Dersh, you scumbag. Oh, my God. Attorney General Barr, quote, appalled. Oh, clutch the pearls. I'm appalled. Yeah, I found it. Attorney General William Barr on Saturday decried the death of wealthy financier Jeffrey Epstein in federal custody while he awaited charges on sex trafficking, saying the apparent suicide, quote, raises serious questions. I was appalled to learn that Jeffrey Epstein was found dead early this morning from an apparent suicide when in federal custody. Mr. Epstein's death raises serious questions that must be answered. In addition to the FBI's investigation, I have consulted with the Inspector General, who is opening an investigation into the circumstances of Mr. Epstein's death. I mean, good, but what would you say, right? Epstein is reportedly placed on suicide watch in late July after a possible suicide attempt. He was found unconscious in his jail cell with marks around his neck. However, reports Saturday indicated he was not on suicide watch at the time of his death. Why? Would he'd been taken off suicide watch and given a rope like 2 minutes before? Seriously. Yeah, Dershowitz has like, oh, what an interesting time to have a heart attack. Yeah, Lisa Bloom is saying, on behalf of, who's the attorney who represents his victims, on behalf of the victims I represent, we would have preferred he lived to face justice. Our civil cases can still proceed against his estate, which is, I think, crucial. Victims deserve to be made whole for the lifelong damage he caused. We're just getting started, no question. I would worry about her safety and health as well, although, I mean, it's very high profile. I don't know, it's not like if the case would go away. Yeah, wow, rich guy dies. We must investigate. Can't get post-show to play, just pinwheeling. That's, sorry about that. Can you guys see me okay? It might be your service. Load your page. Might be an internet break. Oh. I can't wait to see this is real or way to cut off the obvious suspect results by pretending to do a real investigation was not resulting. Yeah, that's obviously everybody's first reaction, and how can it not be, Epstein borrows a mononucleus virus. Makes sense for Epstein to have it from sex trafficking. It makes sense for Barr to have it from kissing Trump's ass. Well, 90% of the people on Earth have it, so, but I wouldn't be surprised if he had it. James, thank you so much. Tech support is up for Ravinia, but I caught a little of your Barney Fife impression and wonder if Mr. Furley is in your repertoire. Yeah, I guess so, James. I'm going to have to whip that out. Thank you so much. Bless you, James. Appreciate it. Big round of applause for James. Thank you. Epstein caused so much pain to these girls, at least they don't have to worry about him hurting them again. I agree, Amy. Yeah, mono used to be called the kissing disease. In high school, that's how they referred to it. That's how the idea is that you got it. That you're almost proud to like, hey, I got mono last summer. I never got mono. And I think that was one of the things like, yeah, what do you know about girls? You've never gotten mono. Like it was that kind of thing. Like it was a pride thing. It was so ignorant. That was more of a Kentucky idiocy. But enough about Rand Paul and Mitch McConnell. So let's see. There. What's really sad is there are more Jeffrey Epsteins running around. Oh, there will always be them. And, that's why that kind of behavior takes constant gardening. Wait, what? Fugelsang has mono? That makes so much sense. I'm just saying, having toured with the guy. How many more documents will be released for Epstein next week? Either all of them or none. That's the thing. Knew a few who got mono. Yes, I love the 80s. Right, totally. I have an ex. Believe me, I would have preferred mono. Right? I had mono in my early 20s. It was terrible. Wow. Well, that's James. Totally. This is the thing about people's responses. I am always, because here's the thing. When something touchy comes up, I am fundamentally aware of if it's something that I have participated in the past, and it is, or somebody I knew got in trouble, or I was around them. Like I'm very aware psychologically of how I answer things. when that comes up. And so when I watch other people do it, I can tell, like, that's an innocent response. That's not. You know, any adult who's done their fair share of, like, wiggling out of situations or dealing with circumstances where they're alleged to be guilty by association or been accused of stuff that they haven't done or accused of, of something because of guilt by association, you know what your response is emotionally to it, you know? So, do you guys know what I'm talking about? Like, there's a... Let's talk about lying for a second, shall we? Because in the mechanics of being an adult, everybody lies to some degree. If you want to call them little white lies like Hope Hicks does, or if you just want to deal with the fact that if somebody's asking you how you are and you say fine and you're not fine, but it's none of their business or you don't have time to explain it, and fine is really a batting away, it's technically a lie, right? That's the thing. And in the case of the adult normalcy of it, and whether or not you're calling it an outright lie or you're just padding the truth so you don't hurt somebody's feelings, which, by the way, I'm one of those people who believes that honesty can be like sunlight. It can work. It can benefit life to have it when it shines, but it can also be blinding if you stare straight into it. And you may not be able to see detail anymore or shade or reality, And so the idea of living a hyper-truthful life where everything you say is the absolute truth with total disregard for the feelings of others in any circumstance is just wrong. It's just morally wrong. And so it's an interesting thing. Morally, we believe in truth being moral, but on the other hand, attacking people nonstop because of how you feel, because it's your true feeling. It may not be an abstract truth or a genuine truth, a factual truth, but it's the truth of how you're feeling, so you would spill it, this is how I feel, I'm immediately saying it, that kind of stuff. That unmitigated truth-telling in those moments, because there's not every detail present, because it could impose the truth on someone else so that it makes them look guilty, because your truth may implicate someone else. I mean, you know what I'm talking about? There's a lot to it. So when kids are terrible at lying, like they're terrible at everything. They're terrible at walking. They're terrible at, at first they're terrible at crawling or eating or not putting dirt in their mouth, So over time, kids learn to refine an ability to the functional sense. Babies and toddlers outrun their feet a lot. They think they're better at it than they are, and they fall down and hurt themselves. And the same thing is true with lying or telling the truth, that people overshoot how much truth they can share without making someone uncomfortable, or how much they can lie, right? And this is a mitigation that all children and adults go through. This is a process. And in doing so, there are variant degrees of defensive lying and offensive lying. I would consider defensive lying is people who believe themselves to be innocent but are in a circumstance that makes them look guilty, so therefore they lie about their presence someplace or in some activity. And then there are people who know they are guilty of it and lie to get out of it entirely. Two people were in the same location. One was there cheating on someone, the other was not. But if they lie, the person who was cheating is a lie. The person who was not is a defensive lie, if that makes sense. And I'm just saying this is all part of that, right? I don't know that Trump was upset about Dumbo, because unless he took the part, it's a big D, Democrats, it was for Democrats. It's an elephant, sir. That's the party they do. They're not, all right. So, Oh, we'll talk about hickeys in a second. That used to be, when you're raised in Kentucky, hickeys are a point of pride, man. If you come back from the state fair without at least one, you're like, do you even live? So the thing about, learning to lie and functionalize and offensive lies versus defensive lies is that in a circumstance, and maybe it's just because I've been in the public eye long enough now, and I've seen other people defend themselves against allegations that are both true and untrue, that I feel like I have, we'll call it LIDAR, like a radar for lies. I'm sorry, said every child that ever lived. And that's true. I'm sorry is one of the biggest lies a kid tells. So here's the strategy I developed for my son so that when he apologizes, he means it. And this was the strategy. And if you have a kid or you're planning on having a kid, I recommend this, especially when they're very young, as a way to start it. If they do something wrong, and they will, let's take kick grandma on the shin, for instance. I've seen this in many families. Like a little kid does something or physically hits somebody, or takes something that isn't there, especially from an adult. What I had my son do was I chastised him for doing it. I told him it was wrong, and then I said, I want you to go over and I want you to apologize to them, but I want you to say you're sorry, and I want you to tell them why you are sorry. What are you sorry for? Say, I'm sorry and I let him fill in. I'm sorry I kicked you in the shin, or I'm sorry I took that book, or whatever. Then I want you to listen to what they say and come back and tell me what they said. So he goes over and he says, I'm sorry I took the book, or I'm sorry I kicked you, and whoever it happened to was like, thank you, and that really hurt, and please don't do it again. And he comes back over and he tells me, okay, what'd they say? They said thank you, and not to do it again, and it hurt their feelings, and it hurt their leg, or whatever the thing was. And then I say, I love you, and I give him a hug, and I tell him I'm proud of him for apologizing for real. And now we know not to do that again, because there's a little bit of follow-up. But once I say I love you, it's done. And that thing that attaches why you're sorry to the fact that you're sorry keeps this I'm sorry from becoming a lie. And that has been immeasurable in sort of growing a moral child. And we'll have to wait till he grows up to find out. But in watching, Dershowitz's denials and stuff, I look at those things and I'm like, how would you, how do you not know he's full of shit? How do you not know that that's not, look at what he's saying and how he's saying it. Carl, if only Trump's parents had done that with him, Hillary Clinton would be president today. This is true. I believe that is the case. I think that's true. Or if Donald Trump had become president, he would be a wholly different human being. And I argue he would have been better at business. How that is not how Trump is raising Barron. The line, "You're dead to me now," is involved. Yeah. Well, I don't know that he is raising Barron, and I don't know. I only hope that Melania is, taking Trump's character as a warning and doing most of the raising herself. Hopefully, and that she's better at it. I can't know, but there you go. So, but his parents would have never done that. They were just as morally bankrupt as he is. Yeah, again, so Maureen, that brings the question, is Donald Trump a victim of circumstance? I mean, this is where we go. Now, I believe once you hit 30, your brain's been your own and it's been solid for 6 years, and you're you, and you have every available human characteristic in your repertoire, especially in a modern society where we have media presented to us. You're not raised in a village where you do not have access to stories outside the mythology of your own group. You know right from wrong. You cannot unknow that. So is anyone truly guilty, or is everyone truly innocent? And this is interesting. EO says, what if someone rejected the apology? That doesn't matter, because the apology is about your behavior, not about theirs. And if they rejected the apologies and they said that, he'd come back and tell me, and I would go, well, then obviously they were really hurt by what you did. But I'm proud of you for apologizing and saying what you did was wrong, because now you know, and that's the end of it. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right. Yes, we have a snail mail address. That's right. Can't Stop Lying. Thanks so much. And September 25th is indeed my birthday. It's coming up. Project 50 is in full swing. I'm going to launch. Project 50 is now turning into what will be my 50th year when I turn 50. A whole strategy for 1 year of extreme personal growth on multiple levels because of the stuff that I've done. So, grandmas usually accept the apology. They certainly do, but they also will tell you more honestly how they felt about what happened. They'll tell you if what you said or did hurt their feelings. Adults may not. Well, to go, well, yeah, that, don't do that or whatever. But when it comes to grandmothers, that's true. They will actually tell you why. So, who kicked their grandma? Lots of people kick their grandmas. I'm actually using, that example, by the way, comes from a family that I know that I'm not related to, where I was at their house for a dinner, and they had a 6-year-old who was a rat. Like, this kid was awful. And you could just tell, like, being around him, like, this guy's going to grow up to be a middle manager at an insurance firm, and his entire raison d'etre will be denying people, cancer treatments based on the fact that they had pimples in high school. Like, that dude, that kid is just on a bullet train to awful. And at one point, he kicked his grandmother, who was really old. Might have even technically been I think it was his great-grandmother, because she was ancient. Kicked her in the shin. And they, were you with Epstein too? No, I've never been on his plane. I've never met the guy. I've never met Alan Dershowitz either. Or Trump. Never met Bill Clinton. Never met Woody Allen. Auditioned once for Woody Allen's casting person for a movie, but didn't get it. Trying to think of anybody else. Haven't met Chris Tucker. Met Kevin Spacey once. He came to see my show in Baltimore. I was doing stand-up, and he came and watched my show at Magooby's randomly, sitting in a booth in the back, and wanted to meet me after the show and say hi and whatever. And I got a picture with him. I posted it at the time. And asked me if I think like having dinner afterwards came up, and I was like, it was late. It was like getting near 1, and I was like, I mean, it was kind of amazing, because at that point, none of this stuff had come out, and this was all, this might have been even beginning of House of Cards. Like, they were filming but hadn't aired yet. And I was like, and I had press the next morning, because I think it was I want to say a Friday. I can't remember what day the show was. I think I had radio the next morning, and I was like, no, I can't. And I don't know if he was hitting on me. I'm blind to that stuff. I've had a bunch of situations in the past where people were like, they were totally hitting on you. I was like, pfft. But I wouldn't rule it out because that was right around, that was post Queer as Folk, but not by much. Yeah. So, yeah. I'm trying to think, yeah. I looked, it was interesting because when that list came up, I literally went, have I ever met anybody that's on that list? And the answer is no. And it's kind of surprising. No, I've never met Katie Couric or George Stephanopoulos either. Like I've been on the morning shows a couple times, but I've never run into those guys. Like it just seems like I've been able to dodge that. So okay. Let's talk about Hollywood for a second. Because after the Weinstein thing, and I guess to some degree they were looping in both Cosby and what Louis did and Aziz. Like I said, I think these are totally different categories of behavior. It's a different talk. But whenever those came up, it was like, oh, Hollywood's a particularly, grotesque and pedophile-ridden monstrosity of an industry, and it's everywhere you go, and there's all these codes and people and secret parties and yada yada yada. And I have been, in the industry, a known entity in the industry since '99, right? And I've been scuttling through this industry since 1986. And arguably, if you count when I was doing stand-up, 85. So, in all that time, I have run into let's see. So, is Kevin Spacey actually innocent? Can he come out of the shadows now? We'll talk about that in a second. And I don't know that innocent is so much it, because he's very handsy, and that was one of his issues. And that's not right, especially in a work environment, especially when you're the star and people's jobs depend on whether or not, you're happy. If you have the ability to fire somebody, you are in a different category in what behavior is okay from you than other people. It's just true. And Charles, this is true. The fact that I don't do drugs and I don't drink has had a major. I have definitely made that an understood, and that because I don't drink or do drugs, I've never found myself in in some of these situations where I may have. Right. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much for my sanity and others. I try. I've been to a few, Hollywood house parties. I went to one that was run by that dude who went to jail who did the Girls Gone Wild thing because, I was literally in a carload of comedians and we ended up there. And I literally had a moment at this house where I was like, this is ugly. And if I had this kind of money, I would spend it differently. I've also been to the Playboy Mansion repeatedly over the years. Time ago. And even going there, everything was so above board there, behavior-wise, and that it was all adults, and that there was kind of an overtness to it, that there was no shame running around. And I was never any place where people were like, okay, don't tell anybody, we blah, blah, blah. I've never been in a situation, and I think even when it comes to, rock stars and people like that I've been around, I'm usually around them when they decide they want to clean up, right? They don't, I don't get invited to the party where they got into trouble. I get invited to the party oh, he doesn't do anything. Bring him over. He'll come up with something fun to do. He'll be charming without having to do blow or something like that. That's, a huge part of it, right? And here's the interesting thing, Six, is that you don't look like a victim to the bad guys. And you may be right in that I've had a couple of situations in my life where, and I talked about this when the Me Too thing was starting out, where there was a casting guy in Chicago who used to bring in people from Second City in the teen troupe and others to audition for stuff. And it was all young people. And he, I literally, we were like he's the reason why I have a rule that I don't have representation if their office is in their home. Like if you're a manager and you don't have an off-site office, if your office is your house or a part of your house, I'm not going there, right? Thank you, Kat, so much. I appreciate that. I never slut shame as the world has no idea what behind the scenes is. And that's true. You don't judge people based on your own sexual mores as long as it's consensual, like I said. So Hal Sparks with a deck of Uno cards to Playboy Mansion. No, clearly not. But this guy, during an audition, I was at the teen troupe at Second City. I'm an alumni of Second City, and when I was 16, I would audition everybody. Everybody knows the story that I've told, which is true. Is my dad grounded me to keep me from doing stand up, so he would only give me the lunch at New Trier cost like $10, and he would give me $5 because he knew I couldn't. I'd barely get to that, and I'd have to come home and eat after school, so I wouldn't go anywhere. And I would take that, and it was $1.25 down to Chicago on the L, and $1.25 back, so that's $2.50. And then the other $2.50 I would use for a bottle of water and a snack of some sort. I wouldn't eat lunch at school, and I would wait till eat dinner later at home. And so that $5 got me to all my auditions, and I would have to walk to them because I couldn't afford to take the train to each place. So I would run into kids from New Trier whose parents drove them to all their auditions. They were all going to the same ones I was because the calls went out to the same kind of talented kids in Chicago for certain roles. And so I'd always see the same kind of kids in the same age range. And all these rich kids would have their parents literally driving them in their air-conditioned SUVs back and forth to all these auditions, and I would be sweaty as hell because I had walked, right? Or freezing, because it was cold. And but I did it, and I loved it, and I never griped, and I knew I was paying my dues, and I knew it would work, and all this kind of stuff. And the only weird audition I ever had, we got called to this audition for a movie, and everybody was excited to be auditioning for a movie. And this guy cast a lot of shit, and I didn't get it. I went. This is my first audition at this. I was very early on in my career. I'd just gotten an agent, and I go to this guy's his office was in his apartment, and already I was side-eyeing this, because I saw Fame. I mocked Coco in Fame. I used to have a joke in my stand-up act about, because I was like, just leave. Just leave. You don't need work that bad. That's not what they ask you to do. And if they cast and couch you, there's another outlet. Beat it. And tell somebody. I don't care. Nobody's going to, you'll never work in this town again, kid, is horse crap. Like, nobody. Anyway, so, okay. Here's the thing. I go into this guy's place. Two of the other kids I knew from one kid from my school and one kid from Second City were there waiting in this guy's foyer, which he had chairs set up like a lobby. And he said, hang out right here, and he had his office was just over in the corner. You could see it or whatever. And during the audition process, when everybody was there, he just said, it's really hot in here. Excuse me a second. And he left the room, took off his pants, and came back in. Still had his shirt on and underwear and like socks, and that was it. And I was like, bye. I was 16, and I was like, no. I didn't even want to go into this, like, that. The apartment thing was a huge red flag. I'm like, if he'd done that in a regular office, I'd have left. But it was also his apartment. I was like, see ya. And I never got another film audition in Chicago after that. He died maybe 4 years later or something like that. Heart attack. Maybe. But so that I would say that's the and literally I was like I forgot about Fame Man that was everywhere for a minute. Yes, it was. And I bet you gave this guy a poor Yelp review. They didn't have Yelp, Carl. West Valley. No. West Valley's a totally different thing. So at that one time, after that, I haven't, I've been to, when I was in my 20s and before I was known, I had a couple of credits and that kind of thing. And largely, again, I got long hair, all this kind of stuff. I'm just in a different patch of being. But I was in, it was an after-school special with Scott Grimes and all that kind of stuff. So I knew some what would be child stars during their down periods and stuff, and got invited to parties and those kind of things. But I ultimately never. And again, this is sort of an epiphany for me, you guys, because I think I think it's true that largely because I don't drink or do drugs, I dodged a lot of this stuff. That being said, I was never offered, even people who didn't know I didn't drink or do drugs. I saw it being done a couple of times, but I saw it being done a couple of times in high school too, at parties. So it wasn't like in LA when I came out there, I was like, oh, damn, right? It's everywhere. Although the first time I saw cocaine was at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles when I was 17. But I thought that it was a joke because there was so much of it. That being said, I think of the few, like, before I was known when I was young and more of like a target pre-Queer as Folk, Talk Soup, where I definitely, like I said, I had enough cue to be on the radar. Yeah. None of those times, I can say unequivocally, none of those times did I ever feel like this is some sort of, certainly not some sort of Illuminati indoctrination, and definitely I'm not being led into a fold of people who misbehave. And again, maybe it's because I'm a loudmouth and nobody, maybe actors are easier targets or musicians because they internalize stuff and they don't sell it, and comics aren't, unless they're open and active participants, you don't involve them at all. The other thing too is comics don't have to worry about a bad reputation, largely. I mean, up until now, and even Louis C.K. will make a comeback. Aziz just had another special. My agents wish I had some sort of scandal so I could have something to talk about in another special that would get extra press. So maybe, like I said, maybe I'm sequestered out because I'm a comedian. Maybe I'm sequestered out because I'm a loudmouth. Maybe I'm sequestered out, quite frankly, because I'm not needy at all. Like I only like attention for it representing that I'm doing a good job, right? To me, like that, I've never been a comic where I'm like, oh, love me, please like what I'm doing. Like that idea has always boggled my mind when you hear that about comics supposedly needing the attention, and that's why we do it in Dance Monkey Dance, and it's just that idea. I hear it even from comics, and that I don't believe actually feel that way, much less the ones who supposedly do. I just don't buy it. I mean, the attention is reflective of success, not because it fills a void, but because, a bunch of people like what I'm doing. Obviously, what I'm doing resonates. that's, I don't know. For me, and again, maybe that's why. Maybe that's why I've never been around that stuff. Hal Sparks scandal. He uses USB microphone, not XLR. That it's kind of true. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I even say in my stand-up act, and this has, the thing with stand-ups is that stand-ups can get away with stuff most of the time that actors and musicians cannot, because we're on a different moral category, partly because we're so honest and partly because we live more realistic lives. The minute you become a celebrity comedian like Louis or Seinfeld, people start thinking that your relationship is their business and blah, blah, blah. And I've certainly lived through little segments where people, were interested and will again, clearly. I mean, like the next dramatic series I get, believe me, people will forget I'm a stand-up and start wondering who I'm dating and why. But comedians can get away with so much more because of the absurdity of what they're doing. And the joke I had in my act for a long time is that, an actor, if an actor looks at somebody while they're dating somebody else, it's page 6 material. But if a comic walked out of if I walked out of a brothel with it on fire, dragging a donkey in S&M wear and, holding hands with a midget prostitute and a little person prostitute, excuse me, and because this is such an old joke, and, and the world's tallest hooker, all arm in arm, walking out of there, people would just go, "He's so crazy," because that's the world of a comic. That's the world. You know what I mean? I'm sorry if you're getting spinning wheels. I don't know why that is, because insofar as feed on my way out of here, as far as the output, it seems to be working fine. So, yeah. You are comedy first with me, and as a comic, we can get anything. I do a whole rape set, and I never get said anything to but my male friends. Yikes. See, I cover that topic as well pretty directly, and I've never had a problem. And the reason is I think it's how you do it. Again, this becomes a talk about jokes. Okay. Not to give away any of my set that I've been working on, and it's always hard to talk around or about these kind of things, and Kathy in our chat room will probably know more about this, whatever. But you can joke about anything. Your jokes just have to be structurally strong enough to withstand the weight of the topic. If it's a light topic, if it's a featherweight topic, you can hold it up with nothing. You can say, what is the deal with McDonald's, and start off on something like that. I don't think it's hooker. That's true. I only say hooker because I think it's funny. Hooker is a funnier word, and it relates to a Civil War era commander who had prostitutes, and it was called Hooker's Corps, but that's another thing. Anyways, that if the heavier the topic, the more the structure of the joke, how funny it is, and how philosophically and intellectually sound it is necessary to hold it up, right? You can't hold up a boulder with toothpicks. And I think a lot of people try to do that, and they go, people are so touchy. And it's like, no, your jokes just aren't funny enough for that topic. That topic is too big for your little support structure of jokes. That's all. That really is it. If you're running into a situation where you address a topic and people are getting upset at your addressing the topic, it just means you don't have enough jokes, or your jokes aren't strong enough, or occasionally is the issue, but very rarely, and this does happen, your jokes are philosophically invalid. They are either another act of violence themselves. They are re-victimizing people, so they are unfunny for that very purpose. They are dismissive of victims, for example. Because most rape jokes are rapist jokes. They are jokes about the people who commit the act and why they think it's okay and how dare you have those thoughts and those kind of things. So as long as your jokes aren't re-victimizing someone, and you can go a lot of different places. But you also have to be really funny on top of it. It's not enough to just do one of the two things. There's so much, you can balance a feather on the head of a pin, and it's, or in a matchstick, and it's not a problem. It's not going to fall over. You can literally do it and walk away. But if you've got this giant thing, it needs several points of structure. It has to be philosophically sound. It can't re-victimize people, and it has to be so goddamn funny, it's inarguable. And that's the where most people go wrong, quite frankly, because the jokes just aren't funny. They're like, people, right? It's dumb. And that's about all topics. And anybody who has seen my whole set lately knows that I reach a point in my set where I go, we have literally joked about everything you're not supposed to joke about, and we're all still here and we're fine. And I usually get a large round of applause at that point, because there's so much tension after you've done these kind of jokes, and but what's he going to go do next? That I break and do that, and it's kind of a punchline in and of itself. Yeah, and Brad, here's the thing. Or the person who is saying you're not funny does not have a sense of humor. That's a good point, but here's the thing. They may not think you're funny, but if your jokes are quality enough, they will not be able to argue with the volume of others who are. That it isn't just one single group. That you're not making the white supremacist incels in the crowd laugh and everybody else is frightened and they're going, you're not funny, you're just placating these awful people because you're awful. If you're funny, it's inarguable even if the individual doesn't find you funny. Because we all know comedy is subjective, but you can't argue with that subjectivity if there's a huge amount of, of people involved in it. So, Maureen, this is true, but women also commit rape. My good friend Terry Jones, who's a comedian, addressed that this week on Twitter, and he got a lot of backlash because he's black, and he was talking about what goes on in the black community with underage black men and women, and it's a huge issue there, and he was trying to address it. He wasn't even making jokes about it. He posted something and was addressing the real concern. He wasn't even trying to do comedy about it. He was just saying this is something, and he got jumped on. That humanity has all these issues, and comedy is one of the ways where we walk out, that we differentiate the monsters from the rest of the crowd. And if we don't, we leave a chunk of the crowd in the monster category that don't belong there, and the monsters therefore think they outnumber the good people. That happens. So, Carl, I'm so sorry. Stretch, breathe, relax. Maureen, it is not entirely a power move. Physical violence of any sort is a power move as well. It has a sexual component that you cannot remove. And these people would not commit these same acts if they didn't get sexual gratification from it. I understand that that sexual assault is a power move, but it's not just a power move. But that's another conversation for another time. Here's the thing. And that's, not obviously, the only topic that is difficult to talk about in stand-up. It just isn't. There are lots of them. But again, if you're going to address any of them, the quality of what you're doing has to be next level. Either the writing has to be so tight and so absurd that it is, if you appear to be joking for, killing an innocent or whatever, all those kind of things. It has to, it has to be so off the charts that people don't really believe it's true, so that they can laugh at the absurdity and the pain and release it in a cathartic manner. Or it has to cover all the philosophical bases and be clear in your presentation of it so that the joke has a good birthing point. So if you are sarcastically, like I had to change, this is a good example. I had to change how I worded a joke because I thought, coming from where I am, that it was obvious how I was being positive. I was trying to be supportive of a circumstance, and I was mocking someone's misunderstanding to where that misunderstanding, it looked like it was actually coming from me. And there's a difference between me mocking someone with a misunderstanding and or the pretend misunderstanding when they're really using that to hide their own bigotry, and me actually having it myself, right? And because I'm so earnest in my stand-up that if I slip into sarcasm or irony without some marker, it's easy to believe the thought is genuine. So from my point of view as a comedian, it's very easy to fall into that as an audience member if you know my act or if you don't know my act. So I have to be very distinct in those. And one of the areas where I talk about a woman in a burqa and how nervous people get and how that's, how fearful they get of a woman in a burqa, and I see it. It came from being in the Mall of America and seeing a woman in a full burqa and hijab and everything, and seeing just the response from people, bless their heart, trying to hold it together. Okay, let's be honest. These people are not used to seeing this. This is something new to them. This is something that's out of the ordinary for them. They may have heard a lot of fear-mongering and stuff, but they're not being overtly hostile. They're just put off by it, right? And that's a real thing. And if you don't believe me, take a black friend of yours to China and walk around. And you'll see how people who aren't used to something react to something they're not used to being around. Okay? So I don't fault these people directly, right away. And in the case of, those folks, I have a joke about it. It might be a deeply devout woman, or it might be a ninja who's let himself go. And, because they're, in my mind, I had those of you who don't know, I studied ninjutsu when I was in high school, and I had a full ninja outfit that I had purchased, like a lot of 80s martial arts kids. And there are leg ties that go around it. It's like a regular black gi that you would wear in a karate class, but you also have ties around the wrists and the arms and the legs so that it doesn't snag on things, is the idea. If you watch any 80s ninja movie, that was the outfit, right? And so the idea in my mind was let himself go meant he's not doing his ties anymore. It's just a drape, just a black drape with this, right? And that was that's my mental image, right? And so having that mental image, that's an automatic mental image for me. It's not an automatic mental image for anybody who didn't have a full ninja uniform when they were 17 years and 15, I think was when I got my first one, 15. It's not an automatic mental image. And so you got to be aware of that in front of your audience. So I have to pad that reference. And so instead of saying, I understand why people could be nervous. The original one was like, I understand why you'd be nervous. Because it could be a devout religious woman, or it could be a fat ninja who's let himself go, and you won't know until it's too late. And it sounded like that was my concern. So I started just adding sir to that and going, I can understand your concern, sir. I can see how that makes, because you might be right. It might be a devout woman, but I can understand why you're afraid, sir, because it could be a fat ninja who's let himself go. And that sir added one of the extra pillars of support philosophically that let the audience off the hook that they weren't sharing in a bigoted belief, because they're not. And that's necessary. Well, I addressed that as well in the bit, and that's exactly right. I mean, if it's the same reason the yarmulke exists, because Jews start to bald right here, and sun exposure can give you skin cancer, and they start getting little brown spots, and suddenly God hates the top of your head. It's so obvious. Well, all right, Can't Stop Lying and I are going to do a Chuck's display at some point then. Me too, and I'm excited. We'll trade techniques. I'm for it. I'm dead serious. I'm mad skilled with them as well. I never learned to do two because it was all just for show. If you do two pairs, there's no purposeful use. It was a good display of dexterity, but it ceased to become a weapon in those regards. So. So we need a comedy forum after the show, which I was in Burbank this week. That would rock. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I like, because and Kathy can probably speak to this a little bit. But I don't personally believe there's an edge anymore in stand-up for real. You could lose your career, but you won't go to jail. The edge died when Lenny Bruce did, and we all learned the lesson that you don't jail someone for free speech. And so, in the United States, anyways, in England and to some degree Canada, it's alive and well. It's still a fine, though. You can be fined, but you're not going to be locked up, even for repeated violations. And so it's almost like a tax that you pay as a performer. Yeah, do Chuck's while impersonating Mr. Furley. Jack? Yeah. So anyway, so that's the end of our little comedy, class on that. So any comedians who see this, and I'm going to cut out a little clip of this and air it later, I think, on its own, because I think this has to be addressed. But any comedians who see this and they're like, audiences are too edgy, or you can't say anything anymore, or any of that crap, let me just say unequivocally, your joke isn't funny enough. That's the problem. You're not good enough for the topic you are taking on. You are not of quality yet. You might be one day, and your material might have a great point to it, but you need to revamp it and work on it. Because if it's a funny notion and a genuinely original funny thought, and the audience is receiving it in a hostile manner, it's because you aren't there yet. Either you haven't written it well enough, you are making assumptions about the perspective, or flatly you suck at stage work. You're not a comic yet. You're not there. And you've got work to do before you do it. And I saw open micers, it's LA especially, but this country's full of open micers who think they're Lenny Bruce from day one. And you're not. And it takes some skill. And if you don't work on it, if you don't take that seriously, and if you don't actually recognize that that's a quality you have to work on, then you're going to end up like Michael Richards. Because that was Michael Richards' problem. Michael Richards' issue was not that he said the N-word on stage. Because there's a bunch of white comics who've said it, and there's tons of black ones that do, and there's some Asian ones that do as well. It's why you say it, and how you say it, and what context, and the strength of which you say it. And the value of saying it, whether it was worth saying or not in that moment. But Michael Richards' mistake was thinking that he could go from 0 to Lenny Bruce in 60 seconds, and you don't. You earn that. You earn that with the audience. You earn that with the quality of the material that you have superseding even the delivery, and you earn that with time on stage and your ability to bring across material that has to get past the subconscious censor people have about certain ideas. Michelle, thank you, Masked Man, and I put this out a little while ago, is one of the quintessential comedy bits of my life. It's right up there with Black Ben the Blacksmith. And in many ways, I wish someone would do that for Black Ben the Blacksmith. Because that changed my opinion about what I was allowed to do in comedy. Well, that is a pretty bizarre show, man. That's right, because it was the use of the word satire. So, Hal, when can we see your newest set in the Chicagoland area? Relatively soon. I'm booking for the fall now. There was big news on the China show front, and so I may be going back there to shoot some more stuff to add to the stuff that we already shot and to finish the show as it is. I will also be directing that show from now on. That's more stuff. But there you go. Joan Rivers. You have to hump the stool for a while before you get good. This is true. See, and Ellie, open mics may be cringy, but there's no way to practice stand-up at home. There's certain bits that require linguistic work, and if you've got lips like mine, some stuff just requires practice. Otherwise, you will not be able to say it in a row. I had this baseball bit about baseball announcers seeming to know every detail about every player on every team at any point during the game, and I had to run it like a monologue in my head because it was so absurd, and it required Tompkins steps up to the plate, and I think at one point was like pop fly to center field, Balzetti settles under that. I see it's been so long. This is why you'd have to practice at home. Well, it settles into that one. The gay son of Italian immigrants settles into that pitch as Tompkins rounds second, carrying the guilt of his father's murder, like that. So, but it was a series of things that I would prattle on. That required, practice. But it was 2 minutes long when I wrote it. It ended up being 1:10 by the time I did it on stage after a while, because there's no substitute for being on stage. Stand-up, you must do on stage. You can practice singing in a room by yourself with a voice coach until they go, you're in pitch and you sound good, and then you go do American Idol, right? You can do that with acting. You can be in acting classes. You can watch movies until you get to the point where you're doing an acting class. Stand-up is the only job where you only get the job by doing the job. It's just that. It's just the truth. You can't. There's no point where you can practice stand-up that way. Could Carlin get away with saying it? He said it. Yeah, Harry Carey. That's right. I was basically doing, because that's my Chicago upbringing, right? Sadly, Americans are accustomed to the taste of rancid olive. Oh, we're talking about olive oil in the side chat. That's good. And we're in context of it, but used for shock makes you a turd. Agreed. And see, I don't say it, and I comedically avoid even using the phrase N-word in my act when I'm talking about it. And there are times when in joke concept form, it might be appropriate. I just choose not to. And I've always had this theory that there are 10,000 jokes for every one you're making. Whatever one I'm sitting here writing and I think is the last joke about this idea, there's 10,000 other ones in my brain somewhere. Find it. And I should be able to find one that cleans up the need for that for me. So I don't, right? Oh, I've seen Hank Azaria and Brockmeyer. I have not, but Tyrell it was on there, and I keep wanting to. So, I disagree with that, Ellie. Hold on. So this comes up a bunch too. The idea that if you say N-word, you're de facto saying that word. The idea is that I think Louis C.K. at one point said this. You made me think that word. Yes, because you know that word. The whole point of using that, at least in concept, like some things, is like spelling around children. So you're not saying the word on the news and normalizing it, but you're also not saying it to any new person receiving that word into their head as okay. So you don't normalize the normal use of it. So yes, adults think it when it's said. Yes, you're avoiding saying it, but you're referencing it in a way that if an 8-year-old is watching the news, they don't think that word is okay. And it's bad enough with the news these days, as bad as, just tap dancing around this stuff. And we've run into this with shithole country when the president said that and those kind of things, where everybody's like, he said it, so that you should be able to say it. Like, no. You can isolate swear words when they're used in and out of context, and you don't have to repeat it. And that, by the way, that reference that EO made earlier to, and I don't know if this gets me into YouTube trouble or whatever, but the sea sucker word, how about that? We'll just call it that. Lenny Bruce has a whole bit about how he got arrested for saying a word, and then the cop said it in court. He said it in a nightclub where people had paid to see it, and then the cop and the judge kept saying it back and forth to each other. Like, he said blah, blah, blah. He said, what? He said, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he said, blah, 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 in front of a bunch of people, blah, blah, blah. He said it twice. He said it here. He said, blah, 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 this. And he said he called this person a blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, he realized after a while, well, they're really getting off on the idea of saying blah, blah, blah. And that's true. You know, you can isolate those things. Just ID the word because it was said, and then don't say it. And you can, if it needs to be referenced, reference it that way because you don't introduce that to a new generation of kids, black or white, that word is normalized in regular behavior. And largely because you don't want little white kids growing up thinking that that's a word that's used regularly. And it's, by the way, it's worked. That it used to be way more normal. But when it started being addressed as N-word, even the kids that knew it in my middle school in Kentucky, in the 80s, they started saying that. Once they started doing that, it kind of was also a reference to that word's not okay to say out loud. It's not okay to use in company. And where it might not have stopped them from being racist and it might not have stopped them from using it in their own homes because that's how they're being raised, it kept them from using it flagrantly in front of other kids who don't live like that, like myself, quite frankly. You know, because there were kids in my middle school and my high school in Kentucky that used the word who were white, and there were kids who absolutely would not. And so it was a good distinction to make. And that misnomer, that idea that, well, it's just making you hear it, because I think that's one of Louis C.K.'s bits, and I've written a couple of bits in my life. Some of you may know them, like the smoker bit, like, non-smokers, for example. That bit was written in response to a bit that both Louis C.K. and Doug Stanhope, who, at the time especially, I had comedic respect for, but philosophically I disagreed with their premise. I disagreed with the idea that non-smokers exist. And I was like, stop calling me something that references your behavior. That was my problem with it, because I don't smoke, and I'm not going to be referenced as if that I live my life minus smoking. That's not how life works. And that was my issue with Rogan about pot, and we've talked about that before. So the same thing applied to his bit about children. My F old people bit, which many of you saw, was in reference to the fact that Louis C.K. kept crapping on his children as if they were adults, expecting adult behavior from children, which I think is the flaw, is the moral, ethical, and philosophical flaw. And so I thought that was worth doing, right? This WWS, I've seen this a bunch of times, and I've heard it mentioning, and I don't doubt it exists, because as someone who's been mic'd a lot in my life, and who've heard the conversations from sound people over the course of the tapes that float around of a bunch of people saying stuff, and by the way, not all of it, racial or racially or sexist charged. Sometimes it's just private behavior. If they're having sex in their trailer and they forget to take their mic off, in a consensual circumstance with another adult whom they are dating or whom they have just met 2 minutes ago, who cares? That's their business. And the idea that somebody taped that and kept it is very concerning. Meanwhile, though, I think the tapes, the Burnett tapes, will come out after he's president, when he can't serve Mark Burnett anymore and he's out of office. Then they'll release it. Thank you, Amy. Thank you for being here. Absolutely. It's always good to have you here. We appreciate you. Oh my God, the Reagan talking to Nixon tapes, that got swamped entirely this week. And by the way, zero surprise. I mean, Reagan recorded an entire album where he, was that was sent out to like coffee clatches of housewives, telling them that Medicare was socialism, and that this was the march of communism destroying America. Is there another Myers brother? I don't know, because my radio agent, Paul, and by the way, I do the show for free, so he's a great agent. I'm just saying. We met after I agreed to do this show. After it was already on the air. He may have negotiated a slightly better. I may have made a dollar, if Paul had been in charge. Looks like the lost Myers brother. So it's entirely possible. There's an entire cut of them. This week was crap for any good news. Yeah. Well, that was exactly it. That's why I think, we had to, yeah. That's why we had to address some good news at the end. And by the way, you know what? You want some good news? You guys are here. I'm here with you. There's 180 of us in here, and we're all of like mind and decent people. And we're able to have a conversation about some stuff that would arguably be, we're made to believe is very touchy. Now, there was news this week that Russian bots, and we leave it at bots, but these are human beings sitting in a room directing a lot of these things to faux accounts and all this kind of stuff. Thanks, Jovan. I appreciate that. Hi. We're trying to foment a race war by, boosting things in social media and creating, differences. And they did, creating incendiary content and boosting it. And I made this joke that, why bother, because Raw Story and the Young Turks will do it for you, which I think I mean that. And I've spoken to that before, and is true. But what that means is the fact that they are doing that and that they are having to do that is that we actually get along as a public way better than people think that we are. That we are, well, I'll talk to that in a second, Wes. That's a good point. And Billy, yes, we are decent. We have our shortcomings, as we all do, but we try. That Vietnam vets remains coming back. I saw that video, and the poster, the post of the guy doing it in the airport, wept like a baby. Oh my God. Yeah. And by the way, I don't get recommended by YouTube, on my show, but largely because we don't have 10,000 followers yet. So spread the love, share the show, reach out there. Hold on. I've got somebody trying to break in the studio. Yes. Hi. I'm still in the air. What do you need? Oh. Yeah. What do you need? Oh, Taylor's gonna be here in a few minutes. Okay. Are you guys starting at 1 or 12:30? Yeah. Yeah. Was 1 okay? Oh, sorry, I didn't know. Yeah, that's okay. Get out of here, man. Gah. Bumper. They got to rehearse in here at 1 o'clock, so he's trying to run me out. Absolutely, Jovan. I'm glad to have Lab Rats fans in here. I know it's a little weird because we're a political show most of the time, but it's nice that you guys can get in here. Let's see. This week was the anniversary of D-Day, but it was also anniversary of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. No, yeah. Yes, you can. If you're a Twitch watcher, I'm back gaming starting this week. So if you like Twitch and you're on there, join me there. That's a lot of fun. And by the way, please consider becoming a Patreon subscriber. We gain and lose people back and forth a little bit here and there, and it's always helpful when you guys can join us there. And it also has all kinds of pluses. We're gonna put a when did that not come up? That's weird. We're going to put together some special shows when it comes to just for Patreons. There's going to be a meetup in one in LA, one in Vegas, one in Chicago. We've got 59 patrons right now. We lost one, but we're doing all right. It's a huge step forward. We had 6 earlier this year, so obviously thank you so much. By the way, those who are patrons got a sneak peek of the China show, and it got taken down largely for good reasons, and I'll explain that in a Patreon post coming up soon. But patreon.com/HalSparks. Please consider joining at the $5, $10 level. At some point, we will we'll expand that and what those mean a little bit as well. The Blue Patch Brigade is the entry level. That's everybody's doing at the $5 level. If you join at the $10 level, there's going to be coming soon a Red Patch Brigade, and it had to happen, right? And then the yellow is the pinnacle. That's the primary design. And then there'll be the Stealth Brigade eventually. Right now, the only person who has a stealth patch is my cousin, because I gave him my blue patch and he can't wear that on his he's a U.S. Marshal and he's got to wear stealth patches. So I had a bunch of maids literally doing that. So there you go. Corporate profits on healthcare is immoral. Here's the thing. This is an interesting thing, Sam Blam. I don't have a problem with reasonable profit when you are providing a service for people. But when the profit actually outweighs the benefits you're giving, which I would argue that in the case of the Sackler family, for example, exist, you got to go. So, and yeah, Maureen, I sent out another batch. You should be getting it soon because I don't know why, I'm double covering everybody. I had to order some new ones just because I was resending them to a couple people. Yep. You're on to me, Brad. All the patches. That's right. You got to collect all 4. That'll be the thing. Yes. It wouldn't be Bumper's birthday unless he came in. By the way, it's the shirtless patron, right? There's a bunch of that, but that's the thing. Can I just talk for a second too, and then I got to clear out because Bumper needs to get in here and rehearse. I love Sam Cedar. I like him a lot. I crossed paths with him at the offices of Air America back in the day, but I don't know that I've ever spoken with him. I think I've seen him in another room or whatever, but we have mutual friends. I adore Janine Garofalo, and they worked together a lot back in the day. Just terrific. And I appreciate where the Majority Report comes from most of the time. I have 2 issues with them. One is the clickbait, incendiary nature of the titles of their videos. And I'm sure somebody read a book somewhere or they looked at their engagement factor and they went and they were going with the YouTube clicks idea. And so everything is somebody being destroyed or obliterated or squashed or stomped or whatever. And the problem is they don't pick and choose the language. So Donald Trump gets stomped one day and the next day Joe Biden is stomped, or Kamala Harris is smashed by or destroyed by blah, blah, blah. And so that's more of I would say that's a staff issue or a management decision thing. I don't know how much, I don't think he has any say in it. I like Sam a lot. And Michael Brooks has his own sideshow now, and he's on there occasionally. And I love Right-Wing Mandela. I love his Obama impersonation. I think he's a witty, funny guy. His love affair with Michael Wolff, the Marxist professor, and this idea that he's indicative of the value of a Sanders campaign is, I think, both misplaced, ignorant, and quite frankly, goofy at times. And he had him on his show recently, Michael Wolff, and they were talking about China and the economics of China and all this kind of stuff. And it was the biggest bunch of claptrap I've ever heard in my life. And the idea that Michael Brooks considers Richard Wolff a mentor in these areas is ridiculous. So I'm trying to tiptoe around this because I love Sam so much, and he's a good soul. I think they need to fix that. I think they need to clean up that mess as far as their clickbait titles and how they draw attention to their clips. It's not good. And what brought me to that was what WWS was saying was, there's good socialism and bad socialism. Here's the problem I have, and Michael Brooks was using the term democratic socialist, and he was referring to himself as a democratic socialist. Michael Brooks is not a democratic socialist. He might fashion himself one, or he might be doing one of these it's time to redefine the word ideas where it means what I think it means. I do not, you keep using that word, that kind of world, And by Michelle, thank you so much. So he keeps referring to himself as that. Okay. And when you talk about Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, those kind of things, those are viewed as, quote, socialist programs. They are not. They are democratic programs. They are a result of a democracy, pure and simple. Democracy in and of itself has a safety net as a part of its baseline philosophical structure. Republics may not, in some ways, and you can argue that that's the difference between our society as a republic versus a democracy, and I would argue that since the guarantee of the right to vote, although the explicit right to vote is not in the Constitution, the guarantee of the right is to not be denied that right, makes it a right. That's a bunch of, we talked about that when we talked about the Constitution a couple weeks ago. So in terms of that, we are, as a democracy, safety nets are an absolute part of that in the protection of the society and the carrying, much like infrastructure is. These are not strictly socialist programs. Socialism is ownership of business by the state. That's what socialism is. Socialism at its root is not all these safety programs. Those safety programs are democratic programs. And I think that's one of the things that has watered down the argument about these issues, and where we've ceded that issue to Republicans and gone, well, Democrats support socialist programs, so it's a slippery slope to where they're blah, blah, blah. No. Infrastructure, the management of a functioning country, and guarantees for people not to die in poverty for the people who are citizens are democratic principles and are democratic programs. They are voted on. The country takes in taxes, sets priorities for where those taxes go, and in the use of those taxes, the public deciding that they did not want old people to die in poverty, or children to go without food in school, or public schools because we want an educated populace. Those are not socialist programs. They are good for the social fabric. They are good for the community, but they are not socialist and they are not communist. They are democratic programs. So the idea that you have to be a democratic socialist to believe in any of those kind of things, to believe in anything that Elizabeth Warren believes, or even arguably anything that Bernie Sanders believes in a lot of ways, is ridiculous. The democratic programs. Unions, here's the thing, Tom, unions aren't socialism because unions are private groups. Minimum wage laws are technically not socialist. They are democratic choices about how a business that incorporates and gets the benefits that the state gives it in terms of protections internationally and all those other things have to also provide a benefit for the public at large. Still just normal democracy. Still normal democracy, and again, this is splitting hairs. I'm not arguing about the value of these things. You and I agree on the value of both of those things. I don't think that even the Canadian system qualifies as socialism, and I don't think a national healthcare system is socialist, unless you're saying that a military force is socialist, and nobody's arguing that it's socialist, right? And again, I would say that the founders' definition of America as a federal system with a democracy as at its heart means that socialism isn't written in the Constitution, that democracy and a federalist system covers all those things. The post office, the Navy, to raise a militia. Why do you need a military? Well, you need to protect your lands and protect your life, right? You need to make sure that nobody invades, takes over territory, and you also need to make sure that soldiers don't kill your citizenry. Well, if you set up the CDC or a national healthcare system to make sure that a virus or cancer doesn't do the exact same thing that a bullet would do from a foreign gun, then that means that the CDC is no more an aspect of it. That's part of the common defense, I would argue. It's providing for the general welfare and the common defense are not socialist concepts. That's what I mean. And so, no, that's just graft, Billy. I think we just use the word loosey-goosey is what I'm saying. And I think it would be better to absorb these programs. Yeah, like the communism. That's an interesting variation on the word. Absorb the programs and stop going, this is democratic socialism. Because there are no Democrats that don't believe in infrastructure, Social Security. Like, these are democratic concepts. And so if either none of them are or they all are. So if you're going to set up this, a single-payer healthcare system because not everybody can afford their own private army of doctors to protect them from the terrorist of cancer, but you are okay with everybody needs a huge military to protect the country and everything, then if one is true, if the CDC or the ACA or Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid are socialist, then so is the Army and so is the highway system. And it's not. It's the affect of a normal structure of a functioning modern country. And I think it falls within the world. Let's see. I agree with you that those the government employs individuals who work in government-run programs like the Navy. But in socialism, all the companies are absorbed. All of them. Not just some of them. Not just we'll socialize some of them. And the absorption of some means not all, means not at all. That's what I'm saying. So, to me, I think it would be better if Democrats, instead of defending socialism as a concept, because it's not what we believe, most don't. I don't know anybody who believes, and again, this goes to the Michael Brooks idea, that believes that the government should take over Starbucks and should take over Apple computers and wait till the next Trump gets in charge and can do whatever they want with it. Please. That you don't believe in socialism in those regards. What you do believe in is a functional society that provides a safety net so that we all thrive and we all can move forward progressively without the concern for that. Without concern for our retirement too much or the poverty level. That we need to answer. We want answers to that. We want our tax dollars to benefit that. And if any country takes tax dollars and applies them to anything, then you're arguing that qualifies as a socialist program. Then the word is effectively meaningless. And every government that takes taxes is a socialist government. They just don't do it for the social benefit of everyone or something. They misapply it. I would argue that this is simply the function of a democracy. That the tax using taxes to provide services to better the country is not a socialist concept. It is a democratic concept in and of itself. That's right, Jim. So in that, prisons, ICE, CBP, they would all be socialism under that definition, and they simply aren't. Socialism is very directly related to control of private industry. It just isn't. And we just don't. So here's what I would say. Own those programs as democratic and as American. There is no need for a secondary hyphenate of socialism because it doesn't apply. It doesn't matter. You're not saving that word from itself, and you're not benefiting the Democratic Party in those regards. I got to sign off. It's time to get off the air because they're going to come in here or whatever, and my girl is calling me right now. Hold on, and we'll sign off with her. Hi, how are you? You at the airport? Yeah. That's okay. I'm just signing off because Bumper needs to get in here and rehearse with Taylor and all those guys. So I've got to shut down anyways. But we were wrapping it up. But anyways, I love you, and I'll call you right back. Give me 1 minute. I'll call you right back. Okay. Bye. So yeah, here's the thing. I'm not making socialism a bad word. I'm just saying it doesn't apply. And again, this goes to kind of the era where liberals became progressives and then liberals now a better word again. I think it's not that we run from the word socialist. It's absorb those programs as democratic programs. You know what I mean? You take care of the country because you are a Democrat and you're a patriot. You provide for the common welfare. And the common defense, the general welfare and the common defense. Those things are democratic in essence. They are not socialist. And again, this is splitting hairs. It doesn't really matter. If you want to use that word, it's fine. I'm just saying there's a lot more room for the absorption of those things. And Democrats can stand proudly by the idea that we are for the governmental support, for example, using tax dollars of renewable energy because it will benefit us all eventually. I wouldn't count those as socialist programs. Investing in a cure for cancer isn't a socialist program. It's a democratic ideal. And because it benefits everyone. The democracy, everyone in the democracy benefits from that use of their tax dollars. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, so Bumper's in 01, and he's also got a side project, and they're playing with us tonight. So anyways, I got to go. You guys are wonderful. This is a debate for another time, but I'm curious what you guys think about this. Leave it in the comments below. I would love to hear your comments show-wise, about whether the word, whether the phrase socialism, if it's our responsibility to rehab it and keep it protected, attach it to democracy, or if it's a drag and unnecessary, or if it's simply unnecessary. I'd love to hear it. So anyways, take care of yourselves. Take care of somebody else. I'll see you next time. Thank you guys for hanging in. I appreciate all you guys in the Patreon subscribers. You guys are awesome. We've got 59 right now. Our goal is 100. If you can at all think about it, please join us. My birthday's next month, so it makes an excellent gift. I'm just saying. It's just going, hey, I'll do it for 6 months. I'm going to be that's my birthday present to you. I'll be a subscriber for 6 months. And you get all these free shows and stuff. I'm just saying. It's a possible thing. There you go. All right, take care of yourself, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye. Bye, everybody. Thank you, guys. Thanks. You guys are awesome.